Okay, with the hour being after 7, open the meeting. First item of business, approve the minutes of January 16th. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next thing, we got a little thing here from CB Realty on Renmar. It just came in. Please advise that they're going to secure 3 sides of the cemetery tomorrow. So it'll be deemed safe. The moment safety is questionable due to erosion. Therefore, it's our best interest to secure the area with riprap. Also, it should be noted this emergency situation. Once it's stabilized, we'll be completing the project as approved. So this is the one in Renmar, next to the one we just did, Bristol. I guess we're starting to slough away. So he's doing something that's not on the plan, but he's just to keep it safe for now. So.
Is this like a burial site?
Yeah.
Cemetery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some trees, I guess, and some stuff was sloughing, so he's just gonna go up, put some riprap there to stop it from getting worse. It's not like he's gonna walk away, I guess. He's letting everybody know, so.
So this is what, behind something that's on Renmar?
No, it's right up on the hill.
Right up on the hill. Right off of West Street, there's a little cemetery up on the hill.
Yeah.
That's his property, but it was starting to slough between the rains and everything else. It's starting to fall down. So rather than lose everything, he's just going to put some riprap up there to hold it for now, just so it doesn't lose any more. Then he's going to finish it the way he's supposed to, but for now, this is just...
He's a little cemetery there.
Yeah, I know, it's not on the agenda. This just came in today. That's why I just wanted to read it, because it's just came in. It's just what happened, I guess, today.
There was a whole bunch of public comments on social media about it recently, so maybe that's why.
Oh, thank God for social media.
Do you want to respond to that, or?
No, we just
Okay.
we read it and noted, right? Yeah, because there's not. He said he's going to finish. So.
Okay.
Oh, he already sent it to the building inspector. Yeah, there's no action for us, so. All right. Next one, 701 Ashley on Summer Street.
Hi, good evening. Ashley Clark with Community and Economic Development. So tonight I have a pretty brief overview of the project at Summer Street. What I really wanted to do is just be a resource to you and answer any questions you might have about the 40B process and the planning board's role in it. It's a very large project, a project that under normal circumstances would certainly be before you. So I just wanted to give an overview of the project and kind of talk with you a little bit about the project. So I'll put this glossary here so that when we post online and people go back and want to know what's happening, they can refer to this slide. I think you're all very familiar with these terms, so I won't go into them. Just briefly, the comprehensive permit, the scope. The ZBA has jurisdiction over, as you know, all local permitting, such as zoning, subdivision control, local wetlands, and so on. Here's a list of things that are not in the ZBA's purview. So comments focused on the things that they do have a say over are helpful. The application is for a total of 300 dwelling units. 192 of those are garden-style rentals, so townhomes, or actually large apartment buildings. The townhomes, there's 48, which are also rental, and then 60 single-family homes. Here's a rendering of the single-family homes, the townhomes, and the multifamily homes. So I think this is what kind of shocks people the most when they see this project, and it's certainly introducing a totally new density to the neighborhood and a new building typology. So in summary, the project would add 225 market rate units and 75 affordable units at that 80% AMI. The planning board role here is to really help the ZBA. There's this idea that, oh, well, it's in the ZBA's hands, so all boards, we don't have anything to do with it, and that's really not the case. The ZBA relies on the expertise of boards like the Planning Board and the Board of Health and other boards that would normally participate in projects for comments on what they should be looking at, what additional materials would be helpful to understand the project better, and so on. So here's a kind of overview of the project. Summer Street's at the bottom right-hand corner. At the back are those large apartment buildings. And then kind of at the bottom are the single-family homes that kind of wrap around. and then the townhomes are kind of interspersed. Here's that site plan. There's been a lot of discussion about the entrance and the fact that there's only one access in and out of the site. That's certainly of a huge concern, especially with 300 units going there, families, children, and so on. So especially since it's one way in and out, and it's right next to the railroad tracks, and everyone's been talking about, okay, well, what does this mean for traffic and backup? But also there's the concern about people turning left and accidentally getting onto the railroad tracks since the guardrails don't come down there. So just pointing out a few of the safety concerns that we've been talking about. There are certainly many others. There's been discussion about a fence down the railroad tracks to protect kids from accidentally getting onto the tracks. Here's just a close-up of that entry. And that's really all I have, is that basic general overview. Hopefully you've had, I know some people have come into the office and looked at materials and whatnot, so I'd really just like to have a discussion with you and answer any questions you might have and see how I can be helpful to you.
All right. Sarah?
Oh boy. So I went through the project and kind of looked at it as if, it was before us. So I have comments and things like that. Is that helpful?
Yes.
To go through that?
Yeah, that's...
Okay. First, I just had a couple quick questions. I just recently saw a few minutes of the meeting, and it looked like Judy Barrett was there. Has she been hired throughout the process, or she was just there? Yeah.
Yes, so we've got Judy Barrett,
Okay.
which I was really excited about. She's a busy lady in high demand, so we have her as our 40B consultant through the duration of the project. We applied for a grant through MHP, Mass Housing Partnership, so the state is funding her, so the town's not paying her fee,
Okay.
but I'm really glad we have her. She's
Great.
really
Yeah, me
talented.
too. I was very impressed with her, so that's great. Can you tell me the number of years that the units are slated to be affordable? And is there a difference with the rental versus ownership? Is that part of the application, or is that something that they're going to discuss?
The number of years?
Yeah,
Oh.
are they 99 years? Are they 30 years?
So
What?
it would be the 99-year in perpetuity.
For both the ownership and the
Yes.
rental? Okay. 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 So the first thing I just want to say, which I'm sure the ZBA will, is that they should carefully consider all public safety officials' memos and concerns. They generally don't put frivolous things, so if it's brought up as a concern, it's a serious concern, and I would hope that they would do like we do and place a heavy weight on those concerns. Regarding the traffic and circulation, I would just recommend that they get a peer review of the traffic studies, and that some study of the internal circulation to make sure that there's safe pedestrian movement throughout the site, and that there's safe vehicular.
Can I give you an update on that?
Yeah.
So the ZBA last night, as part of the hearing opening, approved a couple of scopes of work that we provided for them. One is with Tetra Tech, who's an international engineering firm. They have everything, 90% of what we need in-house.
Okay.
And the first thing that we're starting with is traffic.
Okay.
And the scope of review did include internal circulation and pedestrian and traffic.
Okay.
So that's going to be before the ZBA on April 15th, unless something weird happens and
The results will be?
So that's the next hearing that's scheduled, is to discuss traffic. Part of how we're attacking this project is having targeted meetings so that we can really dig into traffic for a couple of hours.
But will the study be ready at the meeting, is what I'm saying?
So their traffic study's done, the applicant's traffic study.
No, the peer review.
Yes, so the goal is to have the peer review provide a presentation on their analysis of the applicant's traffic study. So the peer review can't do any new studies, but what they can do is look at the methodology underpinning the study that's been submitted and point out areas of weaknesses in areas where, we might need more information. They could point out, whether or not they agree with continuing the study.
Sarah, I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
I just have one. Why can't they do their own?
So
Is it against the law? Is
Yeah.
it, okay.
All we can do is have peer review study what's been submitted. Sometimes peer review will identify things that were left out and necessary for the ZBA, and then we can say to the applicant, we need these additional studies.
Okay,
and,
thank you.
And go from there, yeah.
Okay, so the traffic study that was done showed that there's a decrease in level of service at multiple intersections. So because of that, I would suggest to the ZBA that they ask the applicant to perhaps fund off-site improvements. And some of these, Carl, the town engineer, has suggested look at adding a rotary at the South Common, adding sidewalks, adding a safety fence, which you mentioned earlier, between the project and the train to help protect residents, especially children. And then from the letter that was submitted by the deputy fire chief, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the concerns. He asked, or he talked about the length of the road, which I think the ZBA should request that information. And it is true that, projects before us we have, denied because it's gone beyond our maximum. So I think that the applicant should really explore a second, perhaps gated emergency exit or some remedying effect of that. And really it's just highlighting that, so you have the one entrance exit and you have all of those residents which are relying on our public safety officials to be able to get to them safely and quickly. And you also have, our public safety officials, which we don't want to put them into harm's way if somehow that one, exit is blocked and they have to, truck it on foot, 1,000+ feet, that puts them at risk. So that's why I really highlight that. For the actual entrance, I would suggest that the ZBA maybe ask if they could look at relocating those initial 5 units there, and perhaps move the exit, away from the train tracks a little bit.
That's something that's been really important to the chief
Yeah.
of police, is pulling that away from the railroad tracks as far as possible.
Yeah.
So it's definitely part of.
I didn't measure a lot, but it looks like maybe on the kind of on that upper left as we're looking at it, near units 22 and 23, there may be space to add those 5 units. So, not saying that they can't have those units, but I just find that it's a very difficult location to have them, and if there's no need for it, I'd rather have them in a safer place.
So one thing that I'm really looking forward to on this project is we've also hired a design peer reviewer to. His name's Cliff Bomer. He's out of Davis Square Architects. He's really excellent at what he does, and he's really good at translating kind of these smart sidings and where buildings should and shouldn't go, but translating it to both boards and the developer. So telling a developer, you can still achieve what you're trying to do, but here's how you can make it better.
Mhm.
So I think I'm really looking forward to working with him. And those are the kind of things that he's really good at puzzling out.
Okay. A suggestion that the ZPA could request a plan with all of the building heights and uses, on the project and abutting. And also, if you look at this rendering, it looks like the tree line is very high and is shielding. But to just kind of verify, is that true? Are the neighbors, are the abutters kind of shielded from the view of that, or is it in fact, lower than that?
I know that when I've spoken with the applicant, he's said that they want to work out specifically what the landscaping will look like with those abutters.
Okay.
And certainly any, if the ZB were to approve this project with conditions, those conditions would require certain caliper, certain height at time of planting.
Yeah, but just as far as like really getting the residents in the town to understand kind of what their view would be.
Right.
So once the ZBA has that plan, they could maybe request like a rendering to kind of look at what would be the view, constructed view. And I think maybe even just as a minimum, the view from Summer Street. Just a rendering of, what is the proposed view. Then just a comment, they've made the extraordinary request to waive fully site plan review and the wetland bylaw. I would suggest no on both of those. I think it's fine to make reasonable accommodations, and if there's certain elements within, site plan review or within the wetlands bylaw that they are requesting, I would, think that's fine for the ZBA to review that, but to wholesale waive it, I would caution against. Regarding the environment, wetlands, water concerns, so this site is in the Water Resource Protection Area, Area 3, and it looks like Zone A of the floodplain. So, as I understand it, development within the floodplain is subject to the state requirements.
Yes, so this
So-
project will need to meet all state requirements.
Okay.
Building code, fire code, all of those they'll have to meet.
And is there no requesting a waiver of any element of that, or?
Of the state?
Yeah.
I won't say no. I know that some of the fire code stuff you can go before a board and make a case for, I'm not sure the right verbiage, but like ask for a waiver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they call it a waiver or
No, you can't, conservation is totally separate. They can't ask for a waiver. They can ask for it, they ain't gonna get it.
Okay.
You can't give it to them,
Okay.
because they have to. That's one thing is
But the
conservation.
state doesn't have the power to give it
No,
anything to
no,
them?
the one thing that the state, they can only do inside the sandbox, and inside the sandbox is what the buildings look like in zoning. They can't say, no, you don't have to do wetlands. Wetlands is a definite whole separate thing, just
Yeah.
like anything else. They got asked for every waiver they don't want to do, and one of them site plan, that usually gets waived. Anything to do with fire codes, they can't. Mass housing can't. They're housing, they're not, it's a whole separate thing. Mass housing can't say, no, you don't need sprinklers, or you don't need this. They are not that powerful. They're only there to get this built as a 40B. and
Sorry,
not-
I didn't explain it. I think you can go to a fire board. I'm not talking about mass housing waiving that, but
Oh, I'll tell you,
sorry, I didn't explain myself well enough. But
you can go to the state fire marshal if you want. He ain't gonna waive it because it's the town fire chief has all the say. I give examples like up at the Gillette Stadium. Per the state fire code, they didn't require sprinklers on the concourse. The fire chief in Foxborough said, I don't care. I want them, you're gonna get them, wouldn't open the place. Cost them $2 million. State fire marshal is not gonna overrule the local authority. And it's not, mass housing can't push to overrule. It's a safety issue. It has nothing to do with, let's get some more houses here. It has to do with safety, and that's sort of thing. So you won't, and it's a whole separate thing, and most developers will not challenge that because they never win.
right.
A friend of mine did it with the MRA, and MWRA, and when they try to build something in Somerville, and they said, we got the chief here, the state fire marshal. Fire chief says, you wait a minute, pick up the phone, do what he says. So they don't waive it, because the other thing, think about, the state fire marshal's gonna put his butt on the line if he waives it and something happens, is they always defer to the local. But it still doesn't come under the purview, it doesn't matter whether it's a 40B or any subdivision or anything, it's a whole separate issue, so they can't do that. They can, and zoning board can give it to them, but zoning board doesn't have any power to give it to them, so.
Okay, so that's good. So Area 3, it's our primary recharge area for the Walpole Aquifer. So because of that, they probably already did it, but I would request peer review of any kind of environmental studies related to the wetlands or water. And then to make sure that there's safe drainage of the site, potentially restricting snow removal or chemicals used on the site. And that they request the applicant to submit a list of approval of the chemicals that are being stored. They mentioned there's some kind of household chemicals, but to
Yeah.
actually have the list of
Yeah.
quantities and names. And then just that on the plans, it should be noted that it is in the Water Resource Protection Area 3, the Zone A floodplain, the solid waste, the location of that, and that it's screened should be noted on the plans. The areas upland and the areas of resource density with regard to upland. The percentage of impervious, I saw two different numbers. Looks like 20% maybe in the single-family home area and 28% in the multifamily. And just, I'm sure they know this, but in a typical project, if a site has over 15% in this, area 3, that would require a special permit.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, they don't have to do that, but just that
good
it's a
to know.
special consideration. And then there was a request for a waiver of identifying natural features, noting that they don't want to measure every single tree, which I totally understand, but I would just caution against like a full waiver. There may be like rock outcrops or other important natural features that we want them to identify. And then, just real quick, I feel that the buffer and the setbacks are important, and they noted that there is a setback of 6 feet somewhere, and I didn't see
I didn't either.
where that was.
I did not either.
I interpreted that as the distance between houses, not the back, not the buffer to the...
I think it said
But it have-
setback.
It said 6
Yeah.
foot setback, and I was wondering if they were referring to like one of the driveways, but yeah, I didn't find 6 feet.
Yeah. So I don't think they have that, but I just, in their negotiation, I think setbacks and buffers are important, especially in a project like this, especially, next to single-family homes or, other sensitive areas, and just to be a good neighbor, that would be, something that the ZBA would try to fight for, I think. I would hope. The locus map, I feel, is unreadable, really. If they could improve that in showing, identifying streets so someone can actually use it to identify where the project is. The cover sheets show a Lot 1 and a Lot 2, but I don't see a sheet where that's clearly identified where those Lot 1 and Lot 2 exists. There was a request to not have landscaping in the parking. I would hope that the ZBA would insist on that. We've got this, large apartment structure, and then to just have, a big blanket of parking, it's not nice for the residents, and, to add a few landscape islands, I think, is a reasonable request. And then just for them, when the time comes, to ensure that the lighting that's on those apartment buildings doesn't shine into the residents. And then just a suggestion to, as the project goes forward and maybe there's negotiation, that the ZBA insists on keeping the amenities that have been proposed for the residents. They've got open space, a pool, I think a playground, sidewalks. I think these are all like really important features that we want to, keep in the project.
Yeah, I agree that the playground here causes me a little bit of concern, just considering
Right
that
next to
it's
the parking lot?
directly next to the parking. So
Maybe, yeah, but maybe it can be moved, but the existence of, a playground,
it's
I think,
important,
is important. and
but
good.
also, I don't think a mother put this there.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, we're building $10 million worth of field so people can park right next to the field. Now we're afraid about a playground?
next to an active, I mean,
Yeah, well, so isn't up there gonna be active? That's the whole point. We gotta have fields, like here, you gotta be able to park and see your kid and wave to him while you're reading your book in your air-conditioned car. We can't go down the lower field because that's too far of a walk. We wouldn't wanna have to walk more than 100 yards. So, I mean, when I hear this, it's like, and if I'm the developer, I'm gonna point up there to, up on the hill saying, everybody's parked in like this. We're not even parallel, it's all right in, so we can wave. So, giving mixed signals, I guess, if you don't like it like that. Besides,
just one person's opinion, I saw that.
Well, Ashley,
A
what
whole lot
about,
of parking,
you're
yeah.
parking over here too for the pool, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
So every playground's right next to it, because if you move it in the middle, then mommy gonna,
Maybe it
it's a
needs a
pain.
fence,
I was
a
gonna say, it
gated
just looks
fence
like
or
it could
something.
be an Allstate
Yeah.
commercial advert, right?
Yeah.
You need a fence.
There goes the bouncing ball.
Yeah, I understood, but if you put it too far away, then they don't wanna use it. They want it right next to when they open the door.
And just move it in between the three big buildings.
Drive-through playground for them.
Yeah, but does everyone want to look at the playground as they look out? But anyway, so those are my comments.
Thank you.
Phil?
I won't repeat the ones that Sarah did, other than just to reaffirm the safety, the sidewalks, the recommendations made by the town engineer, by the police, the fire, that more sidewalks, address some of the things that can be done outside the project to address the traffic, and look for seeing expanding sidewalks on some of the other streets that were mentioned, Winter Street and Washington Street and so forth. I also want to reaffirm on the zoning, looking at the vegetation around the parking, that I think it is important, as Sarah said, to do that. Again, these are some of the comments that we got from the town engineer, but the internal circulation signage and that was totally missing, is how the flow of traffic would be, and I'm glad to hear that there'd be a design review, peer review, because they could probably address a lot of those things. On the open space natural features, as in our the planning board rules and regulations, we promote open space, so I would recommend ways that maybe the ZBA can negotiate with the developer in a number of areas. One is, it might be nice to have more open space with benches. There's the walkway, maybe having some gardens that residents can use. Having the gardens that we have up at Evans Farm, and then maybe just having more spaces where people can sit. So there's a lot of open space. I wasn't sure what they were doing with it. Again, that would be something we could maybe negotiate on.
Wetlands, though.
Yeah, but they do have some spaces there mentioned, open land.
A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
On the transportation side, they do have a transportation demand program, which I think is admirable, but I think they should go a lot farther than that. And one area would be to look at, is it possible to have a shuttle to Foxborough, to the train station, maybe work with the T or with other towns to try to make that practical and affordable, even though it's only a mile to walk from
The last mile, though.
A lot of people, it's not a desirable mile. The walk is on Route 1, and so a lot of people may not want to do that walk. So having a shuttle might go a long way, or looking to see how that might evolve over time. And they may be the agent that could initiate that, with other businesses. Also, looking at a lot of discussion about the sidewalks was towards the school and towards going more down Summer Street. Also looking at the sidewalks towards Route 1, again, to maybe promote people going to the Foxborough train station. Another area that I want to highlight that the town engineer raised is on renewable energy. They did mention solar in passing, but certainly the other opportunities. And again, these are things that we could, maybe the zoning board of appeals could recommend or could negotiate. Certainly geothermal for heating and cooling. Looking at the ways that we can ensure solar is on the roofs of buildings. Opportunities to do that, whether they do it now or later. That may or may not be some design changes, but again, something to be looked at.
And
And
they did mention electric vehicle spaces is something that they're contemplating.
That was on my, yeah, okay.
A popular option is to have the houses just wired, maybe not going all the way and installing them. And they weren't set on how many spaces, but certainly that's part of.
I think that would also be very huge. The library, for example, is just going to be installing electric recharging stations, so.
Are we charging people for that? No.
No, they will be charged for
will?
that. Yeah.
You- most of them now, you go up and you get free, right?
Well, I don't know about, but I know the library will be charging them for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be the first, Phil, and that's good.
Yeah, no.
Like 3 cents, like a book will do.
No, actually, it could make some money for the library, actually, is what will happen. Yeah.
Unless it gets in the general fund. then.
And I think that, the trash pickup and, some of those issues.
That's one thing that was severely lacking. I didn't see any narrative or conversation about how they're managing the trash and recycling. And I spoke with Board of Health on comments that would be helpful to the ZBA to help that. Yeah.
So those are my main points. But and again, just want to reiterate about the safety. I think everybody shares in that.
Okay.
Well, first I want to say great job on the website, because I think it's great that you can access everything and it's up to date and you can see what's going on and just become knowledgeable without having to run around everywhere, because not everyone has the time. So I think with a project like this that impacts so many people, I think that's great.
I would like to second that, by the way. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was really make it very easy. So
It was very helpful. I mean, I'm a broken record, but such a large project in such a busy, congested area, I know that makes no difference what my opinion is, but I think it's really awful. I think they deal with enough with the trains and the stadium and everything else down there, and to jam this in is lousy. I think my biggest issue that was glaring to me is, since I've been on this board, we have really seen that 750 feet, one way. It's been a big issue. We turn people down. And I think it's a blatant safety issue. I think it's common sense. It's an accident waiting to happen. And this is so much more than that. I mean, the ones we turned down were not as severe as this in any way. And I think there are so many examples that the ZBA or whoever is arguing it could use against that one way in, one way out. Is there even an emergency fire?
No.
A second? There's not even that.
Nothing.
Really
Not
only
existing.
one way in and out of this site.
That's like crazy. I mean, it's looking for trouble in my eyes, but it's my opinion. And the trains build into that also. They make it even more dangerous. So in addition to the police and fire issue, the train issue just makes it amplified. Aside from the entrance issue, I agree with all the safety around the trains and the access there and how easily a child could get in there. I really don't think this is in any way accurate, but I'm going to ask it because I, again, saw it on social media, so, and it wasn't confirmed, but nobody denied it. So there was something on social media that said that the company had come in looking for 25% affordable, but Walpole Housing Partnership had asked for 50. That's not true, right? They had asked them to increase the number of affordable.
Oh, okay, I remember hearing about this. So there was a big mix-up on who was giving what comments at the Pell phase, and that's the project eligibility phase.
Okay.
And that has zero bearing on the application that's before the ZBA.
Okay.
And I know that's not your question. That also happened.
So nobody's looking
well,
for
I
more than
think-
25 is
No,
what I'm
this,
saying.
This project is for 25% affordable units at 80% AMI. No
Okay.
more, no less.
That, I don't need to get into the
Okay.
nitty-gritty. That answers enough for me.
Can I just, my understanding is that the Housing Partnership asked the applicant to consider having some units for less than the 80% AMI, so like 60% or something like that, that the applicant consider having for like very low income, having some housing. And that somehow got misconstrued
Okay.
to this 50%, which I don't think they ever asked for.
No, we
Yeah.
only asked for some. It was just a,
Yeah.
there's a,
Okay. That's,
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure we're at 25,
Yes, sir.
so.
Yep,
Yeah,
so 25,
yeah.
80%.
Going on.
Just one, I just got word, very recently, that there was an issue with the soil testing, and it was said it was inadequate. And I know there have been questions on whether there's contamination down there. Can you expand on that at all?
So what I can say is that's certainly not my area of expertise. And we have a peer reviewer who is going to look at the tests that they've done and provide an answer to the ZBA on whether or not what's been done is sufficient.
Okay.
It's I don't know, Carl's looking at me like, do you have something to add here? It's a very technical science that I certainly would not ever say I was proficient in, but we do have experts that are working for the ZBA to verify that what's been represented is true.
So our department did witness soil testing, but the purpose of the soil testing, these are open pit excavations, was to determine the type of material there, soil material, and the depth of groundwater. For drainage, we were looking at it for drainage, but the applicant was also digging test pits to see what was in the proposed building areas. But that testing did not focus any on analyzing the water or soils or whatever it is for any other constituents. This is strictly for at least for our concern, for drainage.
But that is being done. Okay.
So our peer reviewer is going to look at those things to the extent that it's under the ZBA's purview.
So they haven't decided if they're doing it?
No, they're doing
They're
it.
definitely doing it.
But there's, you get into, from talking to our town council, I was like, so where is that line here? She said there's a line between what's under the ZBA's purview and what's under DEP. So if there's something that hasn't been completed at DEP that needs to be done, that will come out during the peer review. Does that make sense?
Yes, so it's
Okay.
not something ZBA can just request. It has to be linked to the DEP?
I wouldn't say that. So we have materials that's been provided to us. Our peer review is going to look at those things and determine whether or not they're sufficient and to what extent they're sufficient. And if there are questions that remain, then we can, have that conversation.
I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I think before you put anyone living on top of that, it should be confirmed based on the past use and everything. So, that's all I have.
Okay, John?
Thank you.
Can you go back to the lot diagram?
This
Yeah,
one?
that's fine, yeah. One of the things I saw when I was looking at the plans and some of their requests for waivers, I'm not sure what the current layout is. Is it in two pieces, 3 pieces, I think, existing wise? But they're trying to turn it into 2 separate lots. And neither of the lots they've suggested, they're asking for waivers of frontage on both. If they merely treat it as one lot, they have sufficient frontage. From speaking with town council, there's no reason this can't be one lot. There's no reason that they have to separate the ownership from the rental side, which appears to be what their lot division is. So if there's no legal reason they have to separate it, if they have issues with it, it's something that the developer can deal with while following our guidelines for zoning requirements for frontage. It's one less thing that they're doing wrong. Also, on any multi-unit development adjoining single-family developments, there's supposed to be a 50-foot buffer, and they clearly don't have that adjoining any of those single-family houses on Summer Street or on the vacant rural land where the single families are. I don't know if that would apply anything to the railroad side. Probably not, because it's not residential. But they have to look at pulling a lot of those buildings away from the residential border, I think. Another issue is their crossing of the wetlands. In 2 points, they're going right through the wetlands to allow passage from the initial Summer Street entrance to the majority of their other entrances. Now, I don't know, Concom is obviously going to be looking at this much more closely than anyone else. I haven't seen if are they putting a bridge in over the wetlands? Are they filling the wetlands and building a road? I haven't seen any details as to what they're actually proposing for that situation.
Not there yet.
Not there yet. But I think that's an issue that the DEP is going to have, and if they can't get to those rear areas legally, the whole project's going to go down there. They seem to have managed to squeeze things in a somewhat appealing pattern. I think they've got all their parking that they're looking for, but again, it's one way in, one way out. It's got a lot of turns into it, so making sure the fire access is there is important. I know last night at the meeting they mentioned that the 5 houses up front were put there basically because they wanted to have single families next to the existing houses on Winter Street. That was discussed at the zoning board last night. So that whether we can pull the road over and keep it away from the tracks, and I don't know if they can just flip-flop it and put the houses on the opposite side of the road. Again, that puts the railroad track right in their backyard. It's probably a marketing issue, but it's probably less of a safety issue than the current situation. Those are the points I think I came up with my review of the plans.
All right. I have a bunch. My first statement is, this is a program, I'll say it's shoved at us, which I'm not too happy to have anybody shove at me. But I also don't like the fact that I saw one personally at my own, next to my own on Burns Ave, and it's almost like people were laying down for it. I don't particularly like that. A lot of things on Burns were just like swept aside, like the architectural. We didn't even have an architectural consultant, did we? I know you came in after the fact, but that's, a lot of things that I did not really like that went on there, Ashley. I know you came in the middle of it or towards the end, but if someone's going to shove something at you, okay, you got to do every rule correctly and everything, and you can't go past that, and that's what I didn't see there. The other thing I didn't particularly care for was the attorney we had from the town, when I brought up very simply, is if you're turned down by on something else, you cannot file for 1 year. That application was filed about 5 to 6 days earlier, and that's a very key legal point. That's what we deal with here, filing times and this and that. And the answer the town's attorney gave, which doesn't make me very happy, is, well, that's close enough, and mass housing. No, it should have been denied right at that point. Let mass housing make the ruling. But then once again, Ashley, is 5 days, whatever, 6. Where does it end? That I didn't particularly care for. And that's what the people in South Walpole should understand, is you need the town sitting here saying, all right, then we're going to fight back. We're going to fight back to make sure that you do everything you're supposed to and don't let some of this stuff go. That leads me to my one question. I don't know who's doing it for the town, but they have to ask for waivers. They'll ask for a litany of waivers, right? And if it's within the zoning book, they have to give them to them. Can't give them conservation, as you know. But is anybody on our side going through to see that they've got every waiver they need? If they didn't ask for it, okay, when they come back, boom, you got to go in front of a board that they missed. Is that being done?
So we have Amy Quassel from Town Council, who I think is excellent. We have Judy Barrett, who...
Yeah, I understand that, but
the answer I'm getting to is yes, we have a team that is looking at these plans very closely.
No, what I'm saying is you got to go through our zoning book, every item in there, and go through and see if they've asked for a waiver. If they haven't, if it gets approved, they have to come back.
That's correct.
Very simple one. Say they didn't ask for a waiver for the resource protection.
Yeah.
They would be under that, and they'd never be able to get it approved.
That's they didn't ask for a waiver for street trees, and then they didn't show them or something.
This is not a subdivision, so it isn't covered under street trees.
Okay.
But if they didn't ask for a waiver on the aquifer protection,
Then they'd have to come back and ask.
And they wouldn't get it because it wouldn't meet the aquifer protection. Correct?
If they're, sorry, I don't understand your question.
All right, very simple. The aquifer protection says you can only have so many houses on it, so many square feet, so much lot coverage.
Yeah.
Percent impervious.
Percent, this well exceeds what, so if they never asked for that waiver,
Yeah.
they would have to come back to us, and we'd have to deny it because they don't have a waiver on it.
So if you don't request so say that
If you don't request a waiver, you have to do it.
you have to do it, or you go for a modification.
No. What modification? You can't go for modification after it's been approved. They don't. This is where I'm coming from. If they don't ask for a waiver, tough. Then they got to come back to us. You can't keep going back. Oh, I forgot that one. That's what people got to dig their heels in and say, all right, you're going to invade us with 300 houses, then you're going to do it right. And if you miss something, I'm going to go after you. That's what needs to be conveyed to everybody. And someone needs to already have it all lined up. Outcroppings, aquifer protection, anything.
Yeah.
Buffer, that should be. They ask for a waiver, okay. And then when you're all down the list, you have 200 items. They ask for 199. There might be one there. They'd have to come back.
So can I walk you through a narrative of how that happens? So we go through the Summer Street proposal. We talk about off-site improvements. We talk about the addition of sidewalks and safety lights and all of these things that we negotiate.
I understand.
They miss something. They come back and they say, oh, we actually also need a waiver for this. We'd like a modification. We say, thanks, no thanks, and send them on their way. They go to the HAC and all of those conditions that have been negotiated and worked for are off the table.
No, what's not off the table is they forget one, okay? You approve it. Then it's time they file the plan. Then they got to come back through a board. They can't go back to mass housing and go, nah, I missed it, give it to me. So what's the sense of even having the waivers? All the waivers are listed, correct?
Yeah.
And the zoning board has to, yes, yay or nay in each one.
So
So what I'm saying is, we need a list of every possible waiver that needs to be done here,
Yeah.
and a corresponding list, check. And if they miss something, okay, then we'll see you after you get approval.
And
We
I
shouldn't be giving those up to them. Oh, by the way, you should have done this, you should have done that. That will send me into orbit. If our side says, oh yeah, don't forget the wall resource protection. We shouldn't be helping them. It's not our job. They're invading us with the 300 units. That's my point. And after I saw what happened with the 365 days, that's not up to mass housing to decide. Law is the law. A year's a year, not 360 days. So as you can understand, I haven't been too happy what's gone on, Ashley, not you. But,
not yet, at least.
well, yeah, don't worry, you'll get your
We
turn.
have time.
All right. So you understand, and this is my point, and I want anybody who understands is, you just can't roll over. And that's what I see. No. I don't get rolled over. And I wouldn't want you're doing a disservice. People on this are doing a disservice to the town. You got to play. Here are the rules. We're both going to play by the rules, and that's what you want to make sure.
Right. Unfortunately, with these, as you very well, we have to play by the state's rules. And
I understand the state's rules, but this is what I'm saying. The waivers.
yeah.
They don't ask for it, and we shouldn't be telling them they miss stuff.
Yeah.
When they come back in, oops. And guess what? If he needs a waiver and he doesn't get one from that, he'd have to come to us. That could make this go for a long time. Now, let me ask you a question. There is something in the state statute. From the time you get approval, what is the time you got to pull a permit for it? There is a time frame, and if you don't, you lose it, correct?
Under 40B, I don't know the exact year. I don't know exactly how.
I've heard either 1 year or 2 years, but my point is, if they get screwed up with something like this thing could go on past that time frame and it would just fall apart. That needs to be checked on that, because it's something like this. As you can tell, I don't sit here just to say, oh, that's wonderful. I like to play by the rules, and I want to make sure they play by the rules. Okay, the next one, the fence. That's a very easy thing. Did it over here at, what do you call it, CVS. They didn't want to put a fence up. I said, okay, don't put a fence up. So when a kid runs on the track, it's an attractive nuisance, and you'll be sued back to the Stone Age. It's called attractive nuisance. They're going to have to put a fence up, because they are the ones making this the attractive nuisance. So we have all the kids here. So that's not even negotiable. You will put a fence up there. You don't want to put a fence up, then any lawyer here in attractive nuisance, I'm going to have a few cases at some point. So that shouldn't even be. You're going to put the fence, end of discussion. talked about the architect, let's see, the town waiver, the 25% minimum, yeah, that's all they have to do. They don't have to do any more, they have to get to that, so that's why they don't do it. It doesn't mean down the road they can't rent at that rate to more apartments, correct?
I mean, so the 80% rental is pretty close to...
No, but I'd say 25% set aside.
Yeah, so 25% are set aside, and the way that breaks down in the monthly rent, it's pretty close to Walpole's market rate.
No, I understand that, Ashley, but what I'm gonna say is, when you ask for 25%, the state says, well, you gotta have 25%.
Yeah.
So they gotta meet that, I understand that. They can rent at the same market beyond the 25, they could have 35%. I'll give you an example you would know, Preserve. Back in, when the economy took a dip in the 2005, 2006, they have a hard time renting. The rents dropped to about where everybody else was paying. It's market. So what I'm saying is, it isn't like, it could come back again, that's all. They can rent them whatever they want to, but they have to, as you know, meet it at the 25%. But if they want to rent less, it's up to them. And if the market goes south, they want to fill them up, it's market driven.
And Jack, wouldn't that be good though, if the rents go down, makes it more affordable for more people, right?
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, Phil, if the rents go down, it means we're all in trouble like we were in 05, 06.
Right.
Your house value goes down and everything else.
Right, sure, but just...
And everybody's money, you know, it's not, but I'm just saying, Preserve did do that. They actually ended up with more. They didn't have to count them, they just wanted to get them rented, that's all.
Right.
Like a loss lead or a discount. Wetlands, that's a very interesting point, is the fact that they have, as far as I know, you only allowed to build one house across the wetlands to access your property. They don't have to give it to you to do all this stuff. And they're not bound by 40B, they are bound by the Massachusetts Wetlands Act. So that's a big showstopper.
Yeah.
And to me, if they let that go, it would be like, then I'm a developer in the other part of town, I want this, I'm going to be in there. Well, you gave it to them, and they can't say it's a 40B. That's a very big key. I'm surprised they're not. How far are they with Concom?
So my understanding is that they're trying to apply next week, so they've not even applied yet.
Carl, I'll ask you doing this as a review. They put the cart before the horse, didn't they?
A little bit.
Because the wetlands, even if they can cross, this thing can change.
There's huge implications.
Yeah,
for-
you gotta nail down your wetlands
Yeah.
first, and then you show this, okay? So you guys could go through a lot of stuff, and this could be resubmitted 100 times before, okay? And the final thing that's been hit upon, but I hit upon it before, and I did it on the one down at Burns Ave, is the fire department. I even gave it to the zoning board. It was a decision from the Deputy Fire Chief Paul Barry, and it happened on a subdivision out here on East Street in Dave Wakefield's, nothing over 750. And it had to do with his access. It didn't have to do with build out or anything, and it isn't a matter of sprinklers. It's a matter of how the hell is he going to get there if something's in the way, right? You got something at the start and they got to get to the end. They'll never get out. They'll never, I don't want to say live long, but someone could never get out. That was a key. And what I also pointed out was the fact that you look at any big project we have in this town. Bristol Brothers has an emergency access. Pulte has emergency access. Iorio Arena has emergency access. Even back to the golf course there. Royal Crest has. Every place has another way in because they have to have it. And my understanding, and that's what was said by our two lawyers at that meeting, is like, yeah, I mean, it isn't like he's being arbitrary, is he already had it on something else. So this is his opinion. He wasn't doing it just to shoot that one down. He had issued it before. And my understanding, he can't get out of that. That has nothing, Mass Housing can't say, no, that's all right. They can't do public safety. They can do zoning, but not public safety. To me, that is probably the single biggest thing that could make this thing go down. And I think if I was sitting there on the zoning board, I'd say, let's talk about that first and get this ironed out, because I'm not going to sit here the rest of my life when we talk about the trees and the playgrounds when they can't even do it. Let's cut to the chase.
Yeah.
What's happening here? Can they do it or can't they? That to me should be the very first thing on the plate, but I know it's not. When is that coming?
So we're starting with traffic.
No, I'm talking access.
Access, so we're going to work with Tetra Tech to build out the order of operation.
No, but what I'm saying, Deputy Fire Chief, I assume Paul Barry gave a thing, he says he wants a second egress. or 750 feet, one or the other. Has he done that?
Has he asked for that?
No. Has he given a letter?
Yes.
Says that.
It alludes to it, I believe. It's,
Well, it better say that. So it should, that's right there. We stop right there. You look and they say, where are we going, guys?
Yeah, right there, dead end streets. Number 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. And he's done it on others. So there it is right there.
Yeah.
He has said, give me another, he didn't say they can't build it, but he says they can't build just that one thing.
Right.
I'm surprised that isn't up front and center on the whole thing. Don't even open up the other plans. I can't even get into the site. That should be at number 1. You know, you don't waste your time either, do you, Ashley?
No,
Going to these meetings?
Yeah, really. My dog doesn't see me much, but that's okay.
No.
We're starting with traffic because traffic is one of.
But
of
traffic
our
has
concerns
nothing to do
also,
with this.
But that's not to say that there's other work going on to have these safety conversations.
Well, I will be sending this off to anybody in the zoning and the Board of Selectmen and everything else, and that's one thing I'm going to emphasize. If
Yeah.
me sitting here and that was in front of me, I'd say, we ain't going to talk about this or this. Let's talk about this now. Let's get it settled. Because I'm not going to spend the rest of my nights looking at trees and pretty pictures of buildings when we don't even know if you can do it. Well, we have the fire chief. So this project may not even be able to be built. Let's get that ironed out first. And if you do get it ironed out, then we can go on. But why wouldn't you go over the biggest hurdle right now that says you can't do it the way it's designed? That's all.
I hear you.
Okay, that's all I had.
Jack, I'll just mention that the police letter did mention about the entrance exit currently on plans should be reevaluated.
Yeah, but they're saying reevaluate, but they're not saying. Paul Barry's the one.
Yeah, I know. Usually he says we have to explore a second. I'm trying to load it up.
He did say it, he worded it more.
It's
Didn't
softer.
word like I would.
Yeah.
No.
He referred to it as, they just have to go look it up, but he definitely referred to it under number 4 in his letter.
The other thing, Sarah, is what's over the years, the cops usually like dead ends because people turn down the street and they can't get out. We had one of those
And you
up
catch,
off of
you
1A.
catch the bad guys?
Yeah, we had one of those at 1A for years, and all of a sudden another street came in and said, "What are you doing?" So,
Yeah.
I was trying to run away from a dog on my bike once. It was chasing me, and I turned down and was on a dead end street. It was the most terrifying moment ever.
But I think the ZBA can ask for like clarifying remarks
Yes.
from both police and fire to really like hone in on like how much of a public safety issue is
well,
this.
actually,
Like,
Paul Barry
please-
did come to the one down in Burns Ave and spoke
Please
to that.
explain more.
Yep.
We'll schedule hearings and
Yeah.
have them
Okay.
there. Yeah. I think that's the most helpful is when we actually have the people in the room to answer the questions.
Yeah.
All right. You want to stay for more?
I'm here. I'm here as long as you need me.
I got nothing.
And to that end, if you want me to come and provide updates as we move, however I can be helpful to you and keep you up to date on what's going on.
Keep
please
that
let me know.
website up, it's great.
Okay.
Keep
Yeah.
that going, I think, because any person can be in their jammies at home at night and looking
Okay.
through it, you know what I mean, and getting up to date and seeing what's going on, which a lot of times, with social media, there's a lot of misinformation that gets spread out there.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good because it's accurate and it's up to date and you know what's going on. So good job, really.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
you.
One last thing. I don't know if it's up there because I haven't looked. Do you put the meetings up there too so you can click it?
Yeah, so the one from last night, I just got the link at 5
So it'll be
o'clock
on the
tonight.
website. You don't have to go to Walpole Media and try to find it.
They're all going to be here
They're all
in one
one
spot.
stop shopping.
This right here is the applicant's presentation from last night, so that's already up there.
Okay.
And then also as we receive public comment letters, so folks know that we're getting them, they're going up there as well.
That was something I wanted to ask. I thought it was irritating to me that so many of the public comment letters were from people that aren't from here. Are those even listened to by the state?
So I struggled with this as a,
I don't mean you posting them. I mean the fact that we even receive them and
Right, so that's why I put the name of the town there, so that people knew that it wasn't someone from Walpole, so I thought that was a way to just kind of be transparent about we did receive this letter. It is from a neighboring town, and you can take it or leave it.
So 7 out of 12 are from neighboring towns.
Almost all of them.
So the developers put on their website a form response letter, so all people have to go
You're
is
exactly the same.
fill in their name, and it generates these letters.
Oh, there's support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, psst. I wouldn't even put them on. They wouldn't even make the light of day. What do I care about someone in Brockton?
They're public comment letters.
It's that,
That- we don't. I guarantee we probably don't even exist if you check them. You go to the street address, you probably can't find them.
So,
Did you do that?
actually, our board secretary looked up, I think, some of them, and they all live in affordable housing complexes, is what she found. And I struggled with this I'm very much just put it all out there and let people decide what they want to do with the information. And I don't want to be a gatekeeper of things, so I put it up there. But we just noted that it's from a different town.
No, I thought it was good it was there because you see how they work and how it's sort of underhanded, and
Yeah.
you could see a stack of letters and misunderstand that it's not anyone from the community or even that close to the community in some cases. So I don't think it was bad it was there. I just thought it was,
It's interesting.
yeah.
Maybe you can respond back and say how much you're getting off your rent because of this. They got to get something. I mean, why else are they going to do it?
However, I do think it's important to hear from people that are benefiting from affordable housing. So if that's somebody who
In
is
Walpole.
benefiting
I don't need
in the
another
region,
town.
because
No,
it's
this is
a
Walpole. We're not a
regional
region.
concern.
Oh, we're
As
Walpole.
Mass Housing
We're
has said,
Walpole.
But I
affordable
think-
housing is a regional concern.
I
So
think
these
we
are
know, though,
residents
I
in
think-
our region.
I think we know it's a concern, and I think we know we need it. I just think it's a situation of they have no interest in this project. It's
They're not-
if they wrote a letter,
But maybe somebody spoke
we're getting
up
off on a
for
tangent,
them.
but
Yeah.
if they
to
wrote a
give
letter
them an
on their own,
opportunity.
if they wrote a letter on their own and it was really their feelings, that's one thing. But to just click a button and it's a
like
form
the-
letter that the company who's making money off of it has given them, that I have a problem with.
And I would assume every letter that affordable housing comes from the company owns.
I did not do that.
I bet you they do.
level
How
of
else would they know?
analysis.
How else would they know?
I mean,
This is
this-
like doing online petitions, which I think is stupid too. Anybody can click.
Yeah.
I mean, the days that, don't get me going on
But
all
it's
that.
also disclosure, and I think transparency is good. And I do want to, what Sarah said, we do need more affordable housing. It's very easy to kind of say, well, we don't want to hear whether this is the best project or not. The fact is that 40B projects do serve to bring more affordable housing to Massachusetts. And it's been, I think it's over 65,000 units have been built under 40B, which is desperately needed. And, if we get to our 10%, then we have control over where we do these projects. And
Oh.
that's very important for us to get there.
Well, my whole point tonight, Phil, is good. We're going to play by the rules, and you better hit every rule. I don't got an issue as long as you meet every rule. All right? That's what they're there for. But we shouldn't be skipping them. That's all. Okay. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll write a letter of non-support. Do they have that on there? I'm sure not on their website. Okay. 710 Musto West Street, request a modification determination, and from my understanding, I think we all got it, John, is the fact that you can put your stuff up. I'm trying to help you get out. Yeah, there's a salt shed.
It's the shed, so here's what you include. Right, here's your signature here. The shed was 10 feet off of the rear line. It's still today, now that Ashley left, I'm going to talk to her tomorrow. If you still today go on the town's website, it says that even against the railroad, or in an industrial zone, that a building has to be 10 feet off of, which is not true. If you go to the building inspector and get the paper copy, it's 0 feet, right?
Yeah,
The footnotes are a little bit messed up.
We had that
Why
down
don't
off
they fix
McGuire
that?
Park years ago.
Yeah, so, after the review, Sal looks, and here's Sal, right here, Sal looked at the videotape and said, why can't we just put the shed back to the property line and line it up with the rest of the bins. So that's the request, it's just to move it 10 feet back. I am sliding it over so that if somebody does deem this to be a building, it is 10 feet off of the sideline, but it'll be pushed back to the rear. And that's the difference.
So you're not replacing the shed with just open bins?
Well, they're covered bins, which is what the shed is.
The shed is the covering? Okay, I thought you had bins similar to the ones to the right, only covered in some manner, and the building was going away. That's not what's happening.
That's what we were led to believe, that you didn't want to build a salt shed and you're just going to put a bin there.
Right, they're covered bins. It's a covered bin, so whether it's...
Slide it back in line with the rest of the bins versus the rest of the bins are here and this is a step forward. Then
So it's still going to be covered, just moving it back.
it's still going to be covered. The salt shed is on impervious surface covered.
What,
And so if it's deemed to be a building, it's still 10 feet off the left sideline.
so whether it's a shed or a salt shed or a bin, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So what you're here for, John, is us to determine whether it's major or minor, moving the thing.
Right, we were hoping that you would just say it's minor and that it's okay to slide it back.
It's the same bin wall that's the rest of the bins.
Yeah.
Except on the plan, it should have been set back, but the rest of the bins, it's step forward. Building inspector just said,
Okay, one of my suggestions is if we do vote it minor, you gotta come back anyway, because you gave us some money. But I'd also ask if it is in fact get a letter from Mike Yanovich. Says it's okay. That's all, because we got a piece of paper in here, and he says, and I remember that, John, so if you just have that, you make it a pretty simple thing. So everybody understands what happened with just moving on the site a little back. As a matter of fact, it's probably making it better because you're away from West Street, right?
Yeah, and it's gonna put it all in a line, so there wouldn't be anything sort of behind there.
It's the same wall.
It makes more sense.
Do the people on the train have objections?
Double track now.
All right, I'll make a motion that this is deemed a minor modification.
Second.
Second, in discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So you come back, bring the letter. I forget what the fee is, about $6,000 or something like that?
Yeah. It looks really good.
Be more the shed, believe me. All right.
Thank you very much.
John. Okay, what's this plant? Oh, this thing, I'm sorry. I think that goes there too. All right. The hour being after 7:30, we have at the main meeting room, public hearing for site plan application 20-01 from Blattman, Bobrowski, and Haverty, Concord, Mass. We respect the property at 100 Elm Street, 125 West Street, parcel on West Street, parcel on Elm, and assesses map block 3, 359, 3315, 3321, 25/76, in the zoning district and the central business district and the industrial district. The applicant is seeking site plan under section 13 of zoning bylaws to allow modification of a planning board decision dated 16-14 and June 1st of 2017 on a plan showed parking lot improvements dated March 22nd, 2017 by Kelly Engineering, and the modifications are: 1, add an ADD parking as requested by the building inspector, remove 1 parking, modify the surface stormwater design, and add curbing, in the right-of-way, and change the curbing radius to the entrance. Okay, with that being said, and it's open, what was once upon a time I thought was going to be a simple thing has turned into a little more, because the plan had never been signed off, and that was an issue, and I thought that's what it was, but I see other things have evolved, so if you go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members. We did follow the guidance of your standard conditions in the site plan approval from 2017. Mr. Mackwell, who's sitting here to my right, you'll recall he works for Kelly Engineering, contacted staff and sought approval of the approved site plan within the 60 days that were provided. He didn't get any response from the staff, but that's what your requirement was. It says endorsement of the approved site plan shall be sought within 60 days. We did meet the condition. It doesn't say site plan endorsement shall be obtained within 60 days, so technically we have met the requirement.
Oh, time out. You saying we did something wrong?
I'm saying that we sent an email if you'd like Mr. Macwell to describe what he did, I'll give him the microphone.
Do you have the email that you sent to us back then?
We didn't bring it, but it's forwarded in your record, because I re-forwarded it this year when we were wrapping up the project in the construction element. We recircled back with the permits and realized, we never did this. Let's figure out what to do.
Okay.
We reached out this past fall, and town attorney said that we should reopen the public hearing. That's where we're.
And we have a new plan that we have put together based upon field changes, more or less. The engineer requested some changes, the police department requested some changes. So we're really here to retroactively approve these field changes. If we have a new signature block on the plan, we certainly intend to comply with that requirement of getting it endorsed. In order to make our presentation, I think everybody needs to have a copy of Mr. Baldoff's letter in front of them, dated February 11th. Because if anybody needs a copy, I have extras. You look perfectly good to me. Okay.
What letter is that?
This one.
Oh, Charles, okay.
So this needs to be read in conjunction with the modification page of the application. Mr. Baldoff says it's the third page. When I was looking at the application, it looked more to me like the last page. But it's a pretty short half page. It just says modification page on the top. And as the chairman pointed out, it lists 3 or 4 things that we were seeking here. So I'm going to go through them in the order that Mr. Baldoff deals with him in his letter. And that's at the bottom of the page. Under number 1, he says the third page of the application is entitled modification, and he talks on this one about addition of granite curbing within the right-of-way and changing the 5-foot radius to a 10-foot radius for exit rounding on Elm Street. And he points out that this was a result of strong input from public safety during construction, and the latter was requested by me and the assistant town engineer. So we have now on sheet 3 of the plan set, dated 2/24, which Mr. Kelly's office gave you in response to Mr. Baldoff's letter of February 11th.
What?
If you take a look at sheet 3,
224?
the plan set is now the most recent submittal,
When did that come in?
2/24. They're dated 2/24.
Okay, it came into, did we get this? We didn't get this plan.
Mr. Kelly told us that he submitted them when we met with him last week.
Not to me.
I think I'm going to clarify a little bit, because I called Carl yesterday. David had read the letter from Carl. And
You should use the microphone, David.
Jack, you have an email.
he had read the letter from Carl, which really requested that the off-site modifications be incorporated into the plan that showed the change for the ADA parking. We had got those changes approved for the road opening, roadway work. I think we did a separate plan called Plan to Accompany Roadway Improvements or something. So we just folded those, and all it was adding granite curb in the street and adding more green space. So it's documented within the one plan set. And I brought hard copies of those tonight here with us if you want them, or if we want to do something with them. But the changes were fairly minor, and they were really just documenting the things that happened in the road as opposed to in the site. And so I have those here with us tonight.
It's 10 days ago.
Okay, what we have, a copy here from David Kelly on Monday the 24th to Carl Baldoff, Landis, and Matthew Blackham, and it said, Carl, we revised the site plan development plans as requested in your February 11th memo. The plans sheets 1 through 6 are dated 2/24 and included, and following is a brief response to your memo. Number 1, no action needed. 2, as-built information relating to curb. Ultimately installed the right-of-way has been added. No action, you said on number 3. Whatever that was, you were correct, and the building department has requested handicap spaces. A parking table was included. The site plan and sheet 2 or 3 of that set are included. The parking lots were built with built-in substantial conformance. Whatever substantial conformance means, it's either it is or it isn't. And that we can add the information, what's the decision. So what we have here, but Carl responded that you should be sending this to us, and we don't have any plans for this update.
We were not aware of that because we thought Mr. Kelly had submitted them. Do you have full sets of these 224? Can you give me the copies?
Sure.
I know we gotta go outside.
The difference between the 2017 plans and the 2020 plans that I'm about to give you a copy of are the 4 changes that we're going to go through. I will point out to them each of the changes to you. I apologize, we were under the impression that they had been submitted.
No, just chill.
There were 2 copies of the plan set.
Well, how many we usually get, Kate? 9?
Excuse me?
How many sets do we need?
We need 11.
11 sets? Yep.
We need to go back out for comment.
Yeah, they go back out again. So we'll hold these, get us, what, 9 more?
Those are the,
Do you really want 9 more sets, or is an electronic copy sufficient?
It's required. We ask for 9. I don't ask for things I don't want.
we'll have them down.
Okay. And the other problem we have, and not be a wise guy, is some people don't have computers to do this. Like, I'm not sure if the police has, I know the fire department has. So if we get it in a PDF, which I like, you maybe send it and it goes nowhere. So, plus to meet the intent of the bylaw, 11. So,
Do you want to move along with me on, there's 2 sets of plans there, perhaps you could...
what I don't want to do is, because we can talk about the first set. You can talk everything, but don't go into the revisions, because those haven't been officially accepted, so to speak.
I believe Mr. Baldock has seen the revisions, have you? Of our 224 set in response to your 211 comments?
I have.
What is your position?
I have seen them, but I did not furnish a letter back to the board
Oh, okay.
indicating that we had been okay with that.
Okay.
Why don't we cover these first?
Sure.
Rather than do it, all the other boards, from the conservation, at their February 12th meeting, they said the modification is before the planning board is already approved by the conservation. So, I don't know if you guys went back or not. I don't know if they care about the spaces. Fire department reviewed the plans, and they have no comments on this. Board of Health, which you need anyway. The Board of Health at the meeting voted unanimously that the board has no specific concerns at this time. Police Department, the plans have been reviewed for any public safety impact, and would suggest that the plans show the granite curb that has already been installed in front. It is, I'm sorry, I'll read it again. Walpole Police Department would suggest that the plans show the granite curb that has already been installed in front of the utility poles, which I assume that's been done.
Yes.
All right, and these plans still show Cape Cod berm installed behind the utility poles with the striping of the existing travelway. The issue was already discussed and rectified to do what, so is that's going to be taken off if it hasn't been?
We have a clearly labeled vertical granite curbing along the vast majority of parking lots 2 and 5.
So when he gets a new set, this will clear it up?
Yeah.
Okay, Board of Appeals, reference to the property is not currently in front of the ZBA relative to Elm Street and to Alta. This is a long one. The above referenced property is not currently in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. However, the ZBA did issue a special permit 09/17 to the applicant, Michael Manzo, relative to 100 Elm, 125 West, and to grant special permits under Section 9.6A2 and 9.2C2 zoning bylaw to alter lots 6, 2, and 5 as shown as a plan presented at the public hearing. And said lots more in compliance with the provisions of Section 8 relative to parking standards with conditions. I don't know what that means.
You recall perhaps that the special permits we needed from the ZBA were for parking for a fee, which is one of the entries in your...
No, I understand that, but I'm just trying to interpret what they said here. It just kind of like stopped.
Oh, okay.
That's all. I mean, when you read it, we'll get your copy if we can get a, well, they're gonna get it more clear. I don't even know what that means. It just kind of like trails off. And let's see, from sewer and water, there's no sewer water-related items, so the commission is taking no action on it. So that's all with comments you have, unless we had the original one from Carl. And do you have that, Carl?
I do have it.
Okay, if you want to read it. 'Cause
My memo to the board, February 11th, referenced the original plan set submitted. And I pointed out in our comment 1 that the third page of the application titled modification page, and I basically described the modifications listed, and I identified the fact that we requested the curb modifications that were on the plan, or that were discussed, but were not on the plan.
Perhaps if I could respond while he reads these comments, it would save me having to go back.
Sure.
So with regard to your first comment, we have added a note on sheet 3, that, or an arrow, I would say, that calls out the vertical granite curbing along virtually the entire front of the Riverview Place frontage and West Street frontage on lots 2 and 5 as we know them. And furthermore, on the right-hand side of the parking lot, I think the north arrow is pointing out the east side. There are 4 handicap parking spaces. There are 2 notes as well that point to the radii changes that were requested there. They've been knocked out to 10 and 12 feet respectively per your request.
Correct. So in plainer terms, during construction, we asked that the entrance curbs on the north side of the parking lot be modified to accommodate better access. And in the second comment, I noted that those items were not shown on the plan. In the third comment, I discussed a change in the drainage that occurred actually before I arrived here, but it was also a change from original proposal, and that we agreed with it. The fourth one discusses the fact that the ADA spaces were added next to the very close or adjacent to the north entrance from the parking lot to West Street, and that we also considered that to be a very reasonable and usual modification. In the fifth item, we discussed that, and this is related to the fact that there's now 1 less parking space in the parking lot. So we identified the various ways that the parking had been divided in the original approval, and asked that it be verified that these were still in agreement with what the original intentions were. And then in the sixth comment, I noticed that there needs to be a planning board endorsement block on the plans.
If I could go back to the fifth comment, we had originally 183 parking spaces as approved in your site plan from 2017, but none of them were handicapped. So to make room for the handicap 4 spaces, we restriped, and those are now available. In further restriping, remember we built this, so in further restriping, it turns out that we actually have 2 surplus parking spaces. We now have 185 spaces, which includes the 4 handicap spaces. That's 2 more than we were required. I believe you've seen an as-built plan dated December of 2019. That is the count on the as-built plan. And we will put a parking table on that plan now that we have an opportunity to do that, so that you can have that for your records.
Okay. All right.
So we've encountered these issues out in the field, and the various town departments have asked us as we were making the project complete that this would be better if, and rather than delay on those things, some of them did involve issues of public safety. For example, the radii on the curbs were a request of the police department. They literally said, do it now. So we're coming in, agree retroactively to verify these changes with you through your engineer and to seek modification accordingly. And that's the extent of the change.
Okay. All right, so what we do is pick this up next time. Gotta wait 14 days, which you can't make the next meeting, so the next meeting would be April 1st or 2nd, okay? Just to forewarn you,
I didn't hear the date, sir.
April
first,
2nd.
it's April 2nd, okay? Because
Public
it
hearing
made the
for
14th.
zoning.
Now, just for your own, whatever you guys want to do, we have another meeting further on in that month. I just want to, so you understand, that night we have 2 major zoning changes, public hearings.
Okay.
Could be a long night, so.
It's easy for me to decide because I'll be not here. So, when's your next meeting after that?
The 15th, it's whatever.
16th.
16th,
April?
16th, yeah.
16th.
It's whatever you want to do. I just don't want you guys, because they were already scheduled, and sit here, you could sit here, you know, one of them's inclusionary zoning, the other one's parking at the,
We don't.
and it could go on for a lot.
Do we care if we go to the 16th of April?
I think if we're first on the agenda, I mean, this, to me, is pretty simple.
First thing on the agenda when, April 16th?
April 2nd. he was
No, we're
hoping.
already scheduled, they were already committed.
They're right at 7 now.
Yeah, they're already, that ship has sailed when they're going, they're going one after another.
Yeah, I just think, from our point of view, it's, these are relatively simple field modifications. If we were on the 16th, number 1.
That's, we can do that.
Good.
Okay, I just wanted to forewarn you, so you're not falling asleep, because it is gonna be a tough night, so, okay,
I've had enough tough nights. We'll see you
Yeah.
on April 16th.
okay.
7:15.
All right, we'll do 7:15, April, we'll continue this public hearing April 16th to 7:15,
I need an extension.
and we need an extension?
I don't think so.
Don't we,
We're pretty early in the game here.
don't we? Or maybe it's another one I need.
Nope, 65 days is 327.
327? Okay, yeah, 65 days, so.
Thank you.
Can we have an extension?
Sure.
Up through April 30th?
Yes. Do you want me to write something out?
Yeah, if you write something, I'll make a motion to allow the applicant to take,
Second?
through April 30th. We have a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
And that was extended to April 30th for the
Yeah.
decision to be filed?
Yep.
Do you have a form, or should I just write it?
You can
out?
just write it. Oh, you got a form?
No, I don't.
Oh, no, just write it. There you go.
So you're continuing this to 7:15 on April 16th.
I haven't, was someone from the audience?
Did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, up here. Yep.
You know, in order to best prepare for ultimately what we're trying to do here, the construction's done, everything looks really good in both the parking lots, and there's been some great improvements made. Ultimately, both of our as-bills are actually completed. We got our certificate of compliance on the lot 6 on the Elm Street parking lot, I think last year, and ultimately, our goal will be to close this project up with the planning board as well. So I would like to know the process for that, so we can, you know, accommodate the planning board's wishes if there's anything specific
Okay.
that's needed.
No, all we're gonna do is, you have the updated plans, Kyle has no other comments,
Yep.
whatever. You give them to us on April 16th, you know, doesn't seem anything not to approve. We approve them, wait 20 days, bring them back to us.
30
We
days.
What?
30 days on site.
30 days on site, bring them back to us, the Mylar, show up at a meeting, or you don't have to, just give it to us. Once the clerk has said there's no appeals, and we just sign, and that's it.
And there's no as-built approval process?
No, we don't approve as-bills.
Okay.
That would be up to the,
Mr. Chairman?
yeah.
So, did we satisfy the endorsed plan or not endorsed plan? I mean, for 4 of us, this is a brand-new project, and we haven't seen...
Yep.
So it's not a simple, like, oh,
Oh, okay.
you know, so we haven't seen anything. So is this a new submission? If it is,
No,
then
it-
I would like to see some, like, project overview or really explanation of what
Oh,
it is
okay.
I'm approving.
Okay, right now, they're asking for the approval of these modifications.
But the original was
Yeah,
never...
you can still, yeah,
Okay.
you have the right for that to see. I forgot.
I mean, just as a member, that I would like
Okay, I
to...
keep forgetting, sorry, you weren't there for that. Do you-
I was
4 of us
there.
weren't
Yeah.
there. Only you were
the
there.
only one.
I was
So,
here
yeah.
with dirt. All right, what happened is, I'll briefly, is they came in, knocked down Kendall, sold that to Cochran. Cochran needed spaces across the street. Manzo gave him spaces in their deal, and he had to have his, for his building, so you have the some on West Street, the other ones, I don't even know what you call it anymore, Elm Street, and the other one on the other side of the bridge. So that's what happened. They built all those, and I guess what happened is we're just doing a modification of the spaces. He didn't do anything to his building. then cut it free. So there was no changes. They split the lot, so 2 site plans. The Manzo building, nothing happened, but he needed to have the right amount of spaces for what was left. Cochran needed them. He got some zoning variances on how many, but he still needed more. And what happens is across the street, on West Street, as you go up, it's a combination of Manzo, Cochran parking. Now, one of the things I forget is they can park anywhere, right? Cochran people, and you didn't have a fence between the Manzo. So okay, so when you go by...
They're calling it like lots 2 and 5. Where's, like one lot to me.
When Corcoran first started doing it, it was the residential project, which is the second
The 95
part of
West
this thing.
Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they started their project, they were doing parking impact studies and parking studies. They had done a comprehensive parking study of the entire downtown. Really, prior to the TMC folks even filing an application for any site plans review, the Corcoran folks were well along on their way, and they just split that parking lot into 2 during their process. A portion of parking spots were to be Corcoran's, a portion were to be another one. We just kept the same nomenclature of these parking lot numbers. There's a total of 6 parking lots.
Okay. So on these new sets, have you answered what Carl has asked about,
Oh, yes.
division of
Yes.
which parking spots go to which project?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, everything
With regard to the leases,
everything
and
remains exactly the
everything
same.
is answered.
With the exception, there'd be 1 less excess parking stall.
Actually, you would have understood a little bit better that with the email submission, there were sheets from the original plan showing
and
that.
I have brought some of those here. I think I'd like to just see
And
how it works.
one of the things that's critical, at least in this, is to have the parking calculations on the sheet.
Yeah, that's
Because
what he
it-
asked for.
Yeah, because this is a combination, this isn't like your normal 1 lot.
Right.
What we did, just to
Yeah.
explain to you, is we have this, we'll call it a campus that consists of this was a big building, a couple buildings on this lot, a parking lot here, there was also a parking lot here, and then a remote parking lot over here.
Okay.
And the residential development happens right here. So when this gets split off, they've got parking underneath, some surface parking here, and then in order to satisfy everything, the parking study had to reallocate everything. We counted stalls down here and a lot of commuter parking and things. So in total, where we broke it down into all 6 parking lots, and then all the users are the Walpole Business Center, which is the existing office building here. And then you've got the MBTA, which is stalls for rent that are dedicated through the Corcoran deal. They're going to provide some. And then you've got the residences of Walpole, which is the apartment building itself. So in this matrix, we demise how many stalls are there and who's getting what.
Okay.
And so in the proposed scheme, we'll have what the TMC gets is this parking lot 5, which had excess stalls, but 1 less stall per zoning.
So it'll be 2 more.
Yeah, and actually,
We'll
as the
submit
as-built
that.
shows, 2 more.
We'll submit the as-built so that you can
And
have.
so there really isn't a parking issue. Majority of the reason we're here is we didn't comply with the condition, coming back and getting the plans endorsed, and then we forgot about it after we tried. We tried,
Yeah.
forgot about it, and then
Yeah.
when we really got, then the EPA took the lot for a while. And when we got back into it and started thinking about tying everything together, we opened the conditions again. I called Kate in September. I said, I don't think we ever did this, and I sent the Mylars down, but turns out they said you should open the public hearing.
Yeah, that was from town council.
Yeah. So is it going to be a new submission or no?
No, this is,
No,
a-
modification.
this is, it's a submission, not new, but just for strictly those items. They're not asking for anything else.
Right, because the planning board condition also says that if you're going to make any changes to these things, you've got to come back.
Right.
So at
Okay.
the same time, we're asking to allow the planning board to sign the Mylars, because we didn't do it within the 60 days. And then secondly, we're asking to approve the changes retroactive, because we didn't come back before we made them, but they're all proper changes. And then thirdly, we want to just be in a position to close out the project.
Okay. And it's only on this parking lot, not any of these other...
The other parking lot was
Pieces.
built identical to the plan.
Okay.
It came out really well.
Okay.
All right, now one question for you. You said you ended up with 2 more. You ended up with 2 more than you thought. Does it replace the handicaps or above, beyond that? That's,
The handicaps are part of the 185
Yep.
that we have.
Yeah.
The original plan called for 183, but it did not require handicap. So even by adding the handicap, the restriping yielded 2 additional spaces for 185 and 4
Yeah,
handicap.
you had to knock down 1 space because you had to have 3 handicap.
But when we restriped, we had more room than we thought, so we actually
Okay.
have 2 extra.
So you went 2 beyond you had before. Okay, all right. All right.
Improvement.
Yeah, it's a plus. Okay. See you April 16th at 7:15. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We have a 7:45, a little behind. We'll catch up. What? Oh, this one?
I'm not gonna see Mrs. Calabash tonight.
That's 2 of your plans.
They came.
Those the new ones?
Yeah, those are the ones.
7 more on the way.
That was, yeah. Way needed than this.
Okay. Right. You ready? Ready? Okay.
Welcome back.
Hi, good to be back.
It's like
I
Carter.
see some familiar faces, I see some new faces since I've been here.
You see some non-friendly faces?
No, always.
He said familiar.
Non-friendly, I know where I stand. All right, since you guys are ready, okay. We'll open the meeting. We have a public hearing, March 5th at 7:45 PM, the site plan case 2002 from Pulte Homes in New England. Respect to property located 767, 777 East Street, Walpole, Mass. Shown on Assessors Map 26, parcels 200, 201, and 208, zoning district B, L, M, and GR. The applicant is seeking site plan review under section 13, allow a modification to add a small clubhouse to the Pennington Crossing community as an additional amenity for the residents. Shown on a Pennington Crossing Age Qualified Village drawn by Civil Design Group. And the original project was approved by the site plan decision 18-2 and special permit case 18-3 by the planning board. So with that being said, it's open, and anybody here, anybody watching, or in the future, the old woodworker site. So, oh, it is.
Oh, it's gonna be the
All right.
Mr. Chairman, you just did my intro for me. Those are my remarks, but
You done?
for the record,
Awesome.
my name is Mark Mastriani. I'm here representing Pulte Homes of New England, and I'm here with Reed Blue, a familiar face with Pulte Homes as well, and also behind me is Matt Leidner. He's with Civil Design Group, and is our and has been our civil engineer on the project. So, as you mentioned, why are we here? We're here for a major site plan modification to the approved Pennington Crossing site plans to add a clubhouse into our Pennington Crossing development. This hearing is a public hearing and has been properly noticed and advertised. We were here, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, I think, maybe a little longer. So it was on January 16th, and we are before you to present the proposed clubhouse informally, and this board made a decision or made the vote that it was a major modification to the site plan. So that's why we're back. We'll have a very similar presentation and present very similar information. I think at that January 16th meeting it went very well. We received a lot of positive feedback from the board, and we think this is a great benefit to the project and to the future homeowners of Pennington Crossing. As Reed mentioned the last time we were here, we've been open for sales for a year here at Pennington Crossing, and we are receiving a lot of feedback from our prospective homeowners. When they come into the sales office, one of the major questions or feedback that they give us is, they would like a place to gather, a place to socialize, a meeting spot for the community. So, we're excited to be here, and we're excited to add this clubhouse into the plans, subject to your approval, of course. So with that, I'll turn over the floor to Matt Leidner. He'll give a brief presentation again, and certainly, stop us anytime, or at the end of the presentation, we're happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Okay, just for the record, so everybody understands, you guys know and we know as a board, you probably could have done it on a limited or a minor, but, because you readjusted things, but the board felt because it's gonna be out in front, that it needed, and next to residents, that it would be in the best interest of everybody, because you certainly don't want to all of a sudden go, ooh, where'd that come from?
Sure,
So that's
absolutely.
why we wanted to do it like this, and you guys thought it fine, so just
Sure.
for everybody to understand, okay?
Absolutely, thank you.
Good evening, board members, Ms. Delaney, Mr. Bala, Matt Leidner with Civil Design Group, and Mark took some of my presentation here, as the chair took some of his. But again, we were before you 6 or 7 weeks ago. We had presented the change at that point, and it's still the same change, but we're coming before you now as a public hearing, as the board had voted it to be a major site plan modification. So the request is to replace what was on the approved plan, which was a gazebo out toward the front of the site, toward East Street, and a separate building toward the rear of the site, which was a property manager's office, and replace those two buildings with this clubhouse building. It's relatively small. It's about 1,300 square feet, so it's a 30-foot by 44-foot footprint. There's some jogs in it, which is, I believe the actual square footage is 1,288, so roughly 1,300. It will have the property manager's office within it, so that takes that other building off the plan. And then it will have the gathering area within it, and then a patio attached to it, and the clubhouse and patio combined replace the function of what the gazebo would have provided, but provides more space for gathering. The clubhouse is completely proposed within the what was approved as a limit of work, so we're not bumping the limit of work out at all. It's in an area that was previously disturbed as part of the industrial operation that was there. It was proposed to be disturbed as part of the approved plan. It's just that instead of what was going to go there, we're proposing the clubhouse, so the gazebo. It doesn't affect, so in terms of zoning compliance, we did submit a copy as required to the building inspector, and we did not hear any feedback. We believe it's completely zoning compliant. It doesn't affect the density at all because there's no residential units in the building. It complies with the 50-foot perimeter setback that's required for AQVs. It's approximately 24 feet high or tall, the building height, which is well below the 60-foot allowed in the AQV district. It's over 100 feet from the closest building. The minimum building separation is 25 feet. And it doesn't change the lot coverage numbers because we're taking away two structures, adding this in. There is a slight increase in impervious area, but it's so de minimis that it doesn't change what was on the zoning table on the approved plan in terms of lot coverage. So that being said, none of the numbers in the zoning table change at all from what was approved. The Conservation Commission did issue an amended order of conditions back in January, so we went before them. They had some questions on just how the stormwater would function and relative to the distance from wetlands, setbacks, etc. We got through that. We addressed their comments, and they approved it via an amended order of conditions. We did also, through this process here, receive copies of letters from the town engineer and the Board of Health. I believe you have those as well. And I'm happy to go through those comments individually if that's what the board would like. But I can tell you that they're all of a nature that we feel can easily be addressed through a final set of plans to this board for endorsement, which is similar to what we had done with the original site plan.
All right, I'll read the comments. We'll see what we got. First one, ZBA. They have no comments, so you're up one. Board of Health, at its meeting, they voted unanimously that the board recognizes that the recycling dumpster is known on the plan but appears to be missing a trash dumpster on the property. The board would like to recommend bike racks be added to the plan, as well as lighting and covered benches and proposed trail. You like that one?
I'm happy to respond to those.
Well, to me, it's on the ship. To me, the ship sailed. I mean, this should have been done at the start. We're only doing a building here. We weren't going back into everything else. So, but they would like, but they didn't demand it. But you want to respond?
Sure. Relative to the trash, this, I believe, had come up during the original process as well, when we got the site plan approved. The trash, other than the recycling enclosure, which is what they saw on the plan, is exterior, the trash is actually handled inside the building, in the basement. So there are provisions for that. They're just not on the site plan because it's internal to the building. The bike rack comment, the buildings do have bike racks within them, so all 4 buildings have bike racks in the basements that are available to all the residents of the building. So again, they weren't seen on the plan because they're internal to the building. And as far as the benches, as many of you recall who were here for the original process with this board, there was the gazebo, which is now proposed to be the clubhouse. There's a patio, there's seating inside, outside. There's also a dedicated sitting area on the other side of the project plan that was approved. So we feel that there's been provisions made for seating for pedestrians outdoors.
And we got lights on the trail?
There are lights on the trail.
So, okay, that's what I thought.
Something that this board required and that we added.
Okay, so you got everything done other than what's covered bench? Kind of defeats the purpose of having a bench outside, doesn't it?
Well, again,
Put a roof on a bench?
We feel, we feel that we've accommodated seating.
Okay, maybe they. Well, I can understand why their comments, because if it's inside the building.
That's right. It's completely understandable. Yes.
All right, the police department, they're fine with it. Conservation, as you said, and they gave us a copy of their modified, whatever it is, order of conditions. The fire department reviewed the plans, and we've been in communication with the applicant. Original concerns have been abated. The applicant advises the building have its own monitored fire alarm system, will not affect the parking lot layout. So you're all set with the fire. From sewer and water, we were told the existing utilities would be used for the newly proposed clubhouse, therefore they don't have any issues with the modifications. And the last one of any comments is from Carl. You want to do yours, Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I provided a memo dated February 7th. There were 8 comments in that memo. The first one, and I'll paraphrase, identified that we reviewed the drainage for the Conservation Commission, and we were okay with it. They had a very brief but concise summary. The reason we did that is the positioning of the clubhouse actually requires modification of one of the detention basins out front, so they actually took one end and enlarged the other, and provided a set of calculations. Actually a little better now than it was in the original design. We asked that an approved line be put on the zoning summary table just for clarification purposes. On the third comment, we asked the applicant if they would consider also improving the intersection for Eastover Road. When I say improving, it means widening out the radiuses to go into Eastover Road. This is almost opposite the Pulte development entrance. It really doesn't have much to do with the clubhouse. However, it is adjacent to the project. And we asked them to do that work, and they have agreed and provided sketches, which I'm grateful for, because it'll end up being it will greatly improve the area, in my opinion. On sheet 7, grading and drainage plan, we asked that they provide spot grades for handicap access, so that it can demonstrate compliance. We will always ask for that. Sheet 8, utility plan, discusses what this sewer and water letter made reference to. There was once a house on the property. It was torn down. The services, sewer and water services to that house are used for the sales trailer, and we asked that they use them for the proposed clubhouse, and everybody thinks that's a good idea, so that's been resolved. We asked also that the UT show the electric service going to the site, which is quite a bit different what was envisioned in the design, but it's been put in now. That's been agreed to. We also requested an interim as-built of the site so we could get a look at it before it's all wrapped up and make sure that everything is at the elevations we desire. I understand that's underway, has been underway, and they've agreed to provide that. And then the last item was I discussed what the approved plan set would look like, whether you're going to re-endorse the whole plan set or only endorse the ones that have been submitted, sheets that have been submitted to you.
Okay, take the last one, is since it's going to be a complete set of plans, I never like to have something like a few sheets here with the rest of them. That'll be the first time someone will look for it. But I have too much and too little, except for weight.
Fair enough.
Okay, and you're all on board with all these, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, I'll open up to board comments. I'll start with John. Do you have any, your comments?
No, I think everything's been addressed.
Okay. Good. Kate?
I just wanted to ask, because the neighbors are here who have been at almost every meeting, and since there was no board up, have you guys had a chance to see the changes?
Yes.
Okay, that's all. I just want to make sure because there was no display. So if I'm looking at the plan right, first of all, I think this is good. I like the change. I think it's an improvement to the property, and I'm all for it. I just wanted to ask, just a point of reference. So it said the building, if I'm correct, is about 51 feet from the sidewalk? Am I wrong?
No, you're correct.
Okay.
Which the sidewalk, the back of the sidewalk roughly corresponds with the property line or the right-of-way line, and it's setback. The setback requires 50 feet. We put it 51 just so there's a little bit
Is
of
the
cushion.
building in the same, is the trailer, how far back is the trailer? I'm just trying to do a point of,
The face of the trailer, as you see it today, the trailer is probably 20 feet deep. The face of the clubhouse is about halfway
through it.
through the trailer.
Okay. The gas grills that you reflect in the plans, are those portable like regular gas grills, or are they built-in?
Well, they're not built in as like the desk in front of you, but they'll be anchored, pedestals, but anchored to the concrete patio.
Okay.
Yeah, can't
They're
trust the
permanent,
tenants there.
Yeah. No, just because the neighbors.
No, because you're going to have gas pipe to them, right?
There'll be
Yeah.
gas
Correct.
to them, yes.
And then how does the lighting work out back on the patio grill area?
So there's no proposed lighting back there. There'll be a security building light for the rear door. But right now, there's no rear
Okay.
light.
That's all I had. I think it looks great.
Okay, Phil?
I don't have any questions.
Sarah?
Okay, I agree. I said it before. I think it's a nice addition. It's good for the community. I think it looks nice. Just wanted to double check that the entrance into the building is at grade, right? There's no step or anything, so there's
Correct.
no...
It's at grades. It's a flush entry.
Okay. Okay, and yeah, I guess I just wanted to hear from anybody in the audience, any public, anybody that would like to comment. I think it's valuable to the board. That's it.
Okay. To that conclusion, a couple questions. One of them maybe I missed it on the plan. I made a request at the start of this, the path, you're going to name it. Is it on there?
Maloney Path?
Yes, thank you.
There's a sign on the approved plan, actually.
That's good, that's good. The next one, he probably wants me to do it. Can you name it the Joe Moraski Center? Remember? He's sitting home going, told you so, didn't he?
I know he is.
Oh, he's just gloating right now. No, you don't have to do that.
What a name, Moraski.
But I tell you what, when they're building it, tell them to park up in front of his house, all the construction vehicles. Okay. Anybody, the audience have any questions, comments relative to this change? No? Okay. Make a motion to approve as presented? Well, we'll close it after. That way if something gets screwed. Oh, see?
When is the clubhouse supposed to be constructed?
Mr. Chairman, through you.
Yeah, why don't you come up?
Hi. Yeah, so I would say this spring we would get started. So we obviously need a building permit, and we did, as Matt mentioned, we received Conservation Commission approval, and it sounds like we're getting planning board approval, and we'll get the plans endorsed. So with those steps in place, we'll be able to complete our building permit plan set and complete that design, and then we'd be able to submit that to the building department. And I think they have like 30 days to issue a building permit. So, I would see us starting sometime in, we'll say, May, June, July-ish. It's going where the sales trailer is now. So our plan is to open up the model in the new building and move the sales office over into the new building, and then pull up the parking lot that was temporary, pull up the sales trailer, remove all that, restore all that with grass, with a loam seed, and then we would start on the clubhouse. So it'll probably be after spring, more like beginning of summer, late spring, beginning of summer.
Okay, you all set?
Yeah, and just for the record, the plans that we presented and showed tonight and submitted are the exact same plans that we reviewed when we met. So nothing has changed.
All right, before we close and everything else, got a question for you. Come on back, please. Why don't you give us an update so everybody here and anybody watches it, is you had some off-site improvements, so you can update to tell everybody when this is going to happen.
Yeah, so the off-site improvements at the doorstep, our project entrance, are underway.
Yep.
And they're fully bonded, and our site team and our construction engineer has been working with Carl on finishing up the entrance. And there was some trenches that were done, and there's an overlay that needs to be done, and I think we were waiting for the road to be reopened and so that we could pave it all and do it at the appropriate time. So that will be done very early this spring, or as soon as weather allows. And then there's two other off-site intersections. So there's School Street and East Street. Those plans are approved and fully bonded with the town, and I think our approval requires us to do them prior to the occupancy of the third building.
I believe school goes before the third building. I thought the deal was after the third you did east, but in the interim, the school, I don't recall both of them tied to the final.
So
Well, it's in the decision.
Yeah, it's
but
in
I
the
just
decision.
wanted people to understand more's coming that you guys got for off-site improvements.
That's right.
That's all.
Yeah, and then the other intersection is High Plain and East Street.
That's what I'm sorry.
That's the
That's
big
what I'm
one.
talking about.
That's the
High
big-
Plains at the end. I know that's after everything's sold.
That's the big one. So that's approved and bonded as well. And I think actually that one's to be done prior to the fourth building. It's in the decision. But
Oh, wait
in
a minute, that's
reality,
right. 3 and 4, yeah.
we have the approved plans. We're getting bids for them. And I know, we've discussed with the town on when the best time of year to do it, whether it's in the summer, when school is out, or it's spring. So we're fully prepared to do it and to coordinate with the town so that we do it in the time frame that works best for the traffic and for the town. So it would either be probably this summer or this year or maybe next year.
That's right. You got building 3. I think school after 3 and High Plains
I think
after 4.
I think that's what it said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so everybody understands, you still got more to go, and
Sure.
and that's part of the whole deal. Okay. That's all. Everybody else all set? I'll make a motion to close then.
Second.
A second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the site plan modification as presented.
Second.
I have a second from Kate. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, and we'll put that in a decision for you.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Have at it, guys. Oh, Joe doesn't like red.
Jeff, hand it back.
Yes. Okay. That's bigger and better. All right. And this one up. All right. We have, thank you.
Take care.
We have a 8 p.m. I'm going to screw up that name. How do you say it? Alisabi? Al-Sarabi, okay. Comes Dan. All right. Dan? Okay. Okay, we have a public hearing on March 5th at 8 PM for an application received by the Shakwari, I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name, Al Sarabi Family Revocable Trust with 32 Starlight Drive, having submitted a definitive subdivision for 4-lot subdivision located 32 Starlight Drive. Said property is shown on Assessors Map 4, Parcel 4, in the rural district. Location of the property, the existing property located 32 Starlight Drive is currently developed with a single-family dwelling. The undeveloped portions of the site are wooded. 3 additional dwellings are proposed to be built on the property. There are 2 existing access and utility easements at the front of the property associated with Starlight Drive. Said property is recorded in the Norfolk Registry of Deeds, Book 33344, page 499, and dated, and we have a Type A single-family subdivision dated January 20th, 2020 by Legacy Engineering, and this will be held in accordance with Chapter 41, Section 81T as amended. So with that being said, we've opened it up, and we have sure residents and everyone else who hasn't been, you've done the drill. So what we'll do is we'll allow the applicant, we'll do it about 40 minutes, the last 5 minutes. Anybody has any questions, comments, ask you to hold it till that time, and you'll all get to speak. And for this part, the applicant will present the plan, and after he presents it, I'll read the comments. The board may have comments if there's any back and forth, and at the conclusion, the last 5 minutes or so, but everybody will get a shot to speak. But I just ask you to hold your questions till that time. With that being said, Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dan American with Legacy Engineering here on behalf of the applicant. We've submitted a request for definitive subdivision approval. This is a plan that we had submitted previously with a preliminary subdivision. It is at 32 Starlight Drive in North Walpole. And this is an 11.2 acre site. It presently contains 1 single-family home. Starlight Drive is up here. There's an existing 18-foot wide driveway with curbing, and then there's an existing single-family home in the back with a pool. They have a little turnaround, a garage area, septic system over here, and they have a little garage in the back. This part is wooded. This part here on the north side is also wooded. What the applicant is proposing to do is to subdivide the property into 4 lots. 1 will contain the existing single-family dwelling, and then there would be 3 new lots for 3 new single-family dwellings. This zoning district requires 40,000 square feet lot areas with 200 feet of frontage, but because we're in an area 3-4, it's split between 3 and 4, and we have on-site septic systems, we need 80,000 square foot lots minimum. So that's what we provide is lots with at least 80,000 square feet. And the 200 feet of frontage, the zoning circle, which is a 160-foot diameter circle, is shown on all the lots and fits tangent to the frontage. So as I described in our preliminary application, the applicant would like to do a private way here with reduced road construction. And they would like to reuse a portion of the existing driveway to the extent that the board thinks that's appropriate as the road, the private road for the development. So to give you a sense of what we're talking about here is this is the existing driveway coming in through here. It's in very good condition. It's better than Starlight Drive. It's 18-foot wide. It has Cape Cod berms on either sides. There's vertical granite curbing at the entrance coming off of Starlight Drive. The proposal would be to leave that existing driveway here and then from this point on build an extension. Basically, the existing turnaround is kind of right in here, so we're modeling the cul-de-sac after the existing turnaround, which has a nice little landscape island in the middle. It's not a necessity, but the applicant thinks it's a nice feature and would like to replicate it. So we would take that existing turnaround and basically move it, and we would build an extension of this 18-foot road down through here with a cul-de-sac. The layout that we have shown here complies with your requirements with respect to minimum radius, the corner roundings, all of that. So the property line of the road layout is 46 feet wide. The cul-de-sac has the diameter that's required. So what would be entailed in allowing this is basically allowing the existing driveway to remain, and it would not fall on the center line of the layout unless we change the layout. You know, if this is something that the board is interested in entertaining, we could change the layout with some additional waivers. Obviously, any private way involves a number of waivers. We could certainly change the layout with a couple of additional waivers to follow that existing driveway alignment more closely so that the existing driveway could fall pretty close to the center line of the new layout. We have provided in the design, this just kind of gives you a sense for how the existing driveway falls. But we have provided a full design of a normal roadway in compliance with your standard regulations. We have a profile shown, we have a layout shown with the pavement, the curbing, the sidewalk, all of that, the cul-de-sac. You can kind of see here on the profile, the beginning of the existing driveway comes in at about 3.5%. Your regs say 3%. So if we were to go and build a fully compliant road, we'd end up taking down the existing driveway probably 3 or 4 inches in that first 100 feet. And then we would come up at 7%, which is your maximum grade. There's a stretch of the existing driveway that's about 8.5%. So if we were to go with a normal road, we'd end up taking this area here and we'd end up raising the pavement maybe 18 inches or so. And then up in here, we would end up doing a little bit of cutting for a vertical curve, and then we'd have our turnaround. So what we have shown you again, and we did design a drainage system, which I'll describe in a minute, but it's designed for the full roadway construction. So we didn't design it for the waiver scenario. We designed it for the full roadway scenario with the full pavement and the sidewalk. This is the waiver scenario. Again, we have the existing driveway coming through here. We certainly could, as I said, change this layout. We would basically need a waiver to change the minimum inside curve to reduce it from 150 feet to something like 125 or so. And that would allow us to follow this curve more closely and this curve more closely. The waivers involved, again, the first 100 feet or so, it's that 3.5% instead of 3%, and then we have this stretch in the middle here where we have an 8.5% grade instead of a 7% grade. Beyond there, it would be new construction. You know, it would be new construction. We would obviously not have the full width. We would be looking for a width consistent with the existing, but we would build new from this point all the way to the end of the cul-de-sac. And that would be consistent with your normal requirements except for the width of the pavement. Let's talk about drainage a little bit. So we're doing a number of things with drainage. There's no drainage on the property right now. There's no stormwater management. It's just an existing single-family home. So what we would propose to do, there's 2 catch basins here, but they just discharge out in towards the wetland area, consistent with a prior approval for the single-family home. We would take and we would change those catch basins out. We would put in a first offense proprietary treatment unit and build a small detention basin here to provide recharge and treatment for this beginning part of the road, everything from about here down. And that would bring that stretch into compliance with stormwater standards. We would have a second stormwater basin here for road construction that would be situated here. That would pick up everything for the new part of the road. That is a stormwater infiltration basin. We have a couple of waivers associated with these stormwater basins because your regulations are kind of not consistent with current practices. We're looking for flat bottoms on the basins. We're not looking for central drainage channels in those basins because the standard practice these days is to make the basin bottom as flat as you can so you can spread out the water and infiltrate that runoff as much as you can. Then we have a couple of on-lot systems which are basically exclusively going to be devoted to the lot developments. So in Lot 1, we have an underground infiltration system which would handle the runoff from the driveway for Lot 1 and the house for Lot 1. And then on lot 3, we have a small stormwater basin here that, again, is basically exclusively for the driveway and roof runoff for the house, the future home on lot 3. So, that is the highlight. My thought today, my hope today is that we can get through and kind of talk about the big picture stuff and whether the board is willing to entertain the notion of a private way and, you know, what that scenario might look like so that we can kind of try to advance the plans and the design and address all of the comments that have been generated.
All right, I'll do the comments that I got from the departments. Police reviewed this and do not have any public safety concerns. This is Conservation at their February 12th meeting. Conservation stated the project has a meeting on the 26th at 7:05, therefore reserves the right to comment, so I assume you had that meeting.
Yeah, we had our initial meeting with them.
All right, and when's your next one? Roughly, I mean,
It's in 2 weeks, I think.
Okay. I have Kyle's here, let's see, keep going. What's this? 2 separate, no, oh, this was the conservation. Let's see, make sure I got them all. I have Kyle's, and I have one more and one missing. The missing one is kind of, I'll say, a showstopper in the fact that we don't have anything from the fire department.
Yeah, I'm going to meet with
All
Deputy
right,
Chief
so
Barrett.
for us to consider anything,
Understood.
can't, right?
Yeah, I'm going to meet with Deputy Chief Barrett.
All right, so, and the other showstopper that you're gonna have to get resolved, Dan, is from the Board of Health. As we all know, that's part of Mass General laws, and if they don't approve it, it don't go anywhere. So I'll read what they have, okay? The Board of Health at the February 18th meeting voted unanimously that the board is opposed to new construction within the wetlands and has a long-standing stance on protecting the wetlands and water sources as well as protecting residents from human vector-borne illnesses. If the project becomes approved, the board urges the applicant as well as the future homeowners to adopt a standard best practice for mosquito mitigation with Norfolk County mosquito control with spraying and standing water treatments, clean gutters, proper grading, and order to prevent low points. In addition, since the proposed properties will have on-site septic, they're going to have to require to submit plans for the septic. So, it's kind of a convoluted, but they said they opposed it.
Well, I'm not sure what they said, but
Well,
I will meet with them. They
Okay.
didn't let me know that they were discussing that, so I will request a meeting with the Board of Health.
Okay, so anytime we see opposed, it means we can't do anything either, so. We've had that numerous occasions, not with you, but everything else, so they should, you'll meet with them then? Okay. That's all, and, okay, I'm sorry, it's, just make sure. Board of Health, Conservation Engineering, Police, and Kyle, comments?
Mr. Chairman, we delivered a memorandum to the board dated March 4th. Mr. American also received the letter. In the front of the letter, we identified that we had reviewed the drainage for the Conservation Commission, provided comments separately. We think the drainage design is sound. We had some concerns about grading and icing on the proposed driveways, and for that matter, we also have it on the existing driveway. And asked for more information to be provided, but it's a good drainage design. Then we stepped into some comments on the waivers. We identified that we had no objection to the of the 14 waivers. We had no objection. However, we provided comment on the centerline maximum grade, the leveling area, and said we will not recommend you waive any of your safety standards. You may determine if you want to do that. The pavement width of 18 feet, we would ask for comment from public safety on that. We also made a comment on the roadway, gravel, and pavement waiver and said at least provide some test pits to see what kind of what that driveway was built up, although it looks well and rides well. We also noted that a street tree waiver would be required, or at least we think it would. And we suggest possibly also a waiver from Section 4.9 easements as the town will have no interest in this, and we do not need a conveyance of either the rights in the way or the easements to the town. In my opinion, board might see that differently. Then we went on to the plan review, and the plans are really well. There's very little there. We noted that if the waivers are modified, he would need to modify that on sheet C0. We notified a couple of typos in sheet C1. We want the datum identified on sheet C2 and a few pieces of missing information with inverts and whatnot. We made a very minor comment about erosion controls being tied up on the end of the driveway on C3. On the layout sheet, we asked that a statement that's required in the subdivision rules and regs regarding, actually we asked that that there be a statement saying that the road would remain private and not be accepted way on the lotting plan or the layout sheet. We also noted that we want the bounds to be denoted to be set. That would be the roadway bounds. And we also asked for a list of dimensional zoning requirements for this zone be provided on that sheet. No comment on the grading. On sheet C6, the waiver plan, and no waiver plan and profile, we asked that the width of the pavement be identified. This should be 26 feet. We asked that a statement be provided noting conformance with site distance requirements. That's right out of the regulations. That's required. Once again, we asked the bounds be set, be noted to be set, and we asked for K values on the vertical curves, even though the rules don't require it. It just helps evaluate what design, if the vertical curves are designed suitably. Sheet C7, plan and profile. We did note that the pavement, that the driveway wanders in the right-of-way, and then in some places the utilities are going to be out of it, etc. Mr. American has already described that he could center the right-of-way around the road, and I would support that. But it would require additional waivers. If you go with this proposal, I would suggest those waivers be granted and that the right-of-way be centered around the driveway, and that all utilities, snow plowing, whatever it is, all stay within the right-of-way. We do note a few other things on the plan, curb radiuses. I do note here as well that I see that there's a center island in the cul-de-sac. I'm not sure what Walpole's policy is on that, as I haven't been back here long enough. So I'd like you to discuss that, or Mr. American to discuss that.
I'm sorry, you didn't see me, Kyle. But since it's a private road, we don't care. What they came back years ago is having them stupid circles they couldn't plow them with. They just love to come down and go boom, boom, boom. You got that circle, it just makes it impossible.
I agree.
But because it's private, if it's a regular subdivision, it's out. If you get approved for a waiver, you don't want that. Plus, I don't think fire engines will like it too much either.
We'll just certainly discuss that with the deputy chief.
Right. Thank you for taking me out of my narrative to identify that.
Kyle, speed up. Let's go.
So there are a few other comments, similar comments. There is one comment in there and said, if you do go with this driveway, we suggest that maybe the existing driveway will be milled and repaved after the utilities have been put in, and also to create a crown so that it drains correctly. Then we note on the profiles we want some elevations listed for the basins and groundwater. And then we asked on the detail sheet that a typical roadway cross-section be modified to suit the particular piece of roadway that you're going to build. And then I made a general comment and said, if you're going to do a private way, you have to have a homeowners association, and I suggest that that be drafted and submitted to review during the hearing process.
So you got nothing. Good. Okay. A couple of questions, Dan, for you before you talked about waivers. You gonna put lights on this?
It's up to you. What we've done in the past with these types of roads is we required that the lots have light posts out near the streets.
I haven't done that. That was done long before
No,
my
I
time.
mean, I've done that in other communities, so
Yeah, I
that's the
understand.
way that some people handle that situation. We probably you may want a light at the intersection. I'll have to go out and see what the street light situation is at the intersection, but you may want a light at the intersection. But it's up to you, I mean, if you
Well,
want street
the
lights.
issue becomes now that, the utilities, you gotta bury them.
Yes.
So now you have to provide poles. They should be, in the old days, they just go, there's a pole, and it was out of our hands. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to spot them, you think's required, and if you want a waiver or whatever you wanna do, okay?
Yep.
But that would have to be addressed. The other one is, I just wanna, for Carl, I think in the past, Carl, fire typically likes 20 feet, not 18. It's always seemed to be the 20 mark.
The new standard is 20, so there's a real good possibility that Deputy
Okay,
Chief
just
will
wanted-
ask for 20.
I wanted to bring that one up.
Which, we're running a water main up the side of the road anyways, so adding 2 feet to the width is not going to be that difficult to do if we need to do it.
Okay, the other thing, I know you got a bunch of grading problems. You're gonna have two plans, conventional and your waived plan. Would you be seeking on your conventional any waivers?
No.
So the grading and all that, and you don't have any issues then?
No, we have plenty of room for the
Okay.
conventional.
Just asking because sometimes people do ask for waivers. I just wanna see you don't have anything you need.
I'll take another look. I don't think there are any waivers. We meet all the rounding requirements, the layout is all there. I'll take another look, but I don't think so.
I just want, if we deal with the waivers, wanna make sure if it doesn't go.
The waivers are all
way.
revolved around the private way scenario.
Right.
But you don't want to get to a situation where the private went down and the conventional went, you might be stuck.
Right, understood.
That's why with all the stuff, Kyle, I want to make sure we don't have any waivers that you would need for the other one, so.
We did not see any on the
Okay.
conventional plan.
All right, all set for now. Sarah's turn.
Okay. Kind of reiterate what the chairman had said. Really, there are like 3 main entities to be satisfied before we can consider to be satisfied. Concom, kind of in cooperation with Board of Health, regarding the building construction near wetlands and the vegetation, any comments they have about the road. Fire is a big one, as far as the width and the grade of the road, and as related to, public safety, vehicles and persons, and then engineering, the roadway dimensions and drainage. So if all those entities are satisfied, then, we can make an informed decision, kind of what the board
As I
should
said,
do.
I'll meet with the Board of Health and I will meet with the Deputy Chief.
Okay. Just a couple questions or comments on the locust plan. If you could identify Route 109, and maybe adjust the plan to be more friendly and discernible where we're talking. I believe the preliminary plans had said the road was wider than 18. Did it not say?
No, we were proposing to
Thought
use
it
the
was-
existing, which is 18.
Okay. So, again, we just defer to what the fire...
Yeah, it's going to be, what the Deputy Chief has to say on that is going to drive that conversation.
Yeah. And a question for you, if we did end up approving the waivered plan, so keeping the driveway, would you improve the roundings at Starlight Drive?
It certainly can, yeah. Yeah.
And then just to clarify, so the existing cul-de-sac or whatever you would call it, that's going to be destroyed and then like a new cul-de-sac built?
Correct.
Okay. And then, has it been determined the location of the homes? Are they approximately where the zoning
Well, so,
circles are, or
this
do
was-
you have any?
This is one of Carl's comments. Subdivision control is not really about identifying exactly what house is going to go where and what shape and size, but we have to have a basis for the drainage design.
Right.
So we put on the plan what we think is going to be developed, and that becomes the basis for the drainage design. And if what is actually constructed is something materially different, then we would have to come back for a modification.
So you're imagining basically where the zoning circles are is approximately
Well, like for this, we have this house positioned back here. Somebody could try to position it up in here if they wanted to, and that would be, in my view, okay, because it would be less impervious surfaces and less runoff, and, but if they wanted to situate the house way back here or something, there would be more impervious surface, and that would be something that would require a reconsideration of drainage design, perhaps.
Oh, so you do have it shown.
But I show on the grading sheet, the approximate layout of
Okay.
houses and driveways for the 3 new lots. The existing house is not going to change.
Okay. So the lot 1 house is going to have a significant driveway
Yep,
of
lot
its
1
own.
house is in back.
Yeah,
Lot 3 house is in back. Lot 4 house is right up near the road.
okay. And you've done the drainage calcs, assuming that impervious
What's on the plan
driveway-
is the basis of the drainage design.
Okay, okay. Okay, and the last one, I'm just curious, you show like an oven? Is that like an exterior oven?
It is,
that
it's
going-
kiln. The applicant's wife is an artist, and she
Oh.
has a nice kiln out there.
Okay, and so that has to come out?
Well, that would be one of the things, if we end up with the waiver plan, I think we're going to make some adjustments there to try to save that.
Okay,
They really would like to keep it, if they can, or not have to move it.
yeah.
So it's going to depend on whether the board's willing to entertain the waiver scenario, the private way scenario.
Is the
If we did that, we would end up tightening up these radius curves here and here, and we would end up tightening up this radius curve a little bit, so we could tweak this cul-de-sac a little bit so that this could meet the setback requirements.
Okay, okay, just curious. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Cool.
Just a couple questions. So as far as the basins, the drainage basins,
Yeah.
would those require maintenance? And how would that be handled?
Well, so it could be handled 2 ways. Town of Walpole has historically required that individual lot owners maintain the drainage systems on their lots, but if this is a private way, there will be a homeowners association, so it could alternatively, and I think is probably better, to have the homeowners association be responsible for all drainage maintenance, but I would defer to the board on that.
And the number of rock outcroppings, you're not looking to remove those at the current plan, then, or to remove a lot of...
For the infrastructure construction, there's no removal of rock.
But it looks like the placement of the houses right now...
And I have positioned the houses to avoid the rock outcrops. What somebody ultimately does on a lot, I'm not sure. I would think it would be unlikely that a lot developer would want to get into a lot of rock. It's kind of expensive.
Have you had to test out for the septic?
Yeah, that's complete.
And all that.
Every lot has 2 septic tests.
Okay, so I would share all the other comments. We're waiting for the fire. I mean, I have concerns about the gradient and the safety and icing and the road width, but we'll see what comes back from fire and conservation and so forth.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kate?
I'll reserve my comments until everybody else comes in, because there's not much point in repeating what everyone else just said.
Sounds good.
I just have one question. So it's not likely that the current homeowner will retain the road. It's more likely they'll do a homeowners association with all the homes equally responsible for the road?
Yeah, we would do an association.
Definitely. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
John?
I just had a question. The pool, you have it shaded. Does that mean it's coming out, or is that just to draw attention to it?
No, it's just to show it. That's going to stay.
Just for clarification, the 7%, is that what the requirements are?
Yeah, that's max.
The regs max is 7%.
Okay. And the alternative, you've got, what, 8.5?
I have a short stretch of 8.5 in the existing condition. So if you want to get a sense for what that's like, you can go out and drive down the driveway.
Well, drive up the driveway,
Drive
right?
up the driveway.
I was first looking at it and it's going down. No, it's actually going up.
It's going uphill. It goes uphill from Starlight Drive.
Really want to feel 8.5, John, walk it.
Yeah.
They make...
How's it compared to Washington Hill?
Oh, that's steeper.
That's steeper. What's
Yeah.
Pemberton?
Oh, Pemberton, geez.
Like 20?
Yeah.
No, not that,
Not
not
that
that much.
Maybe 12, maybe?
Yeah, low
That's all?
teens.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah, I know, I was going to say, probably do that like 2 times a
Yeah.
day.
I'm not gonna be driving it in the winter when it's icy.
You all set, John?
Yes.
Okay. I have a couple of things. One of them is like everyone else has said, the big thing is fire without them here, whether it be the conventional or the waived plan. Ain't much because it is a dead end. It's not like you're connecting. So that's one. And like I said, the Board of Health, what do you have there?
Yeah,
So-
I'll talk to him.
All right, the kiln.
Yeah.
Is the kiln on, it's not in the right of way though, right?
No, no, no.
No, it's,
Okay, it's
No,
just
on
on
a
the edge.
lot.
it's on
Oh,
line.
okay, so that's down
We
there.
have it on
okay.
a lot in an
Yeah.
easement,
Yep, okay.
but there's a setback issue with it, so it would have to be moved the way the road is currently configured. If we go down the private way scenario, we would look to reconfigure the cul-de-sac a little bit so it could meet setbacks.
You did mention, I think Phil had a question of septic, so I would, I know you don't have to show the houses, but you have to do it for, like you said. Okay, now, you've done all the testing for the septic. Is any of them way wacky, or are they all within relative normal distance of the house?
Oh, yeah, they're all, so the septic, they're on the plan. So the septic system for this house is here.
Okay.
Septic system
Oh,
for
there it
this
is,
house
okay.
is here, and the septic system for this house is here.
You'll have to refile, won't you, for the existing house?
What do you mean refile?
Well, because it's a whole new plan, or not?
Or septic?
Yeah.
No.
Where's the current septic for that existing?
It is right here.
All right, so it's within the bounds of the...
Yeah, it meets all the setback requirements.
Okay, I was gonna comment on HOA, but it doesn't matter, because being a private road, they'd all have to get together, unlike we have these with open space. Those are just a disaster, because no one owns the open space, but they have to do all the plowing on this type of deal, okay? Other than what we're waiting for from the other boards or departments that you're gonna go visit, I don't have any more questions now. I'll open up the audience and ask you to come up, identify yourself, because you're gonna be on TV. Anybody wanna spruce up first?
I had one other question.
Check your lipstick.
The vegetated wetlands that are on the north side of the lot,
Yeah.
what type of wetlands are that? Is this uplands basically with just some wetlands there, or is this just
Well, this is a wooded swamp.
wooded swamp?
Yeah, it's what you'd call a wooded swamp.
Okay.
It's pretty heavily wooded, it's pretty heavily treed. It is a wetland area, it's all been delineated. Same thing down here, this is all kind of down here, a wooded deciduous swamp.
Okay.
So, we're in front of the Conservation Commission, obviously, for work in the buffer zone.
Is that John?
Yep.
Okay, anybody who wants to come up, come on up, and while whoever's walking up first I'll just say that we do have all the green cards that were required to do it. The microphone, because that's so you can be on the cable.
Great, thank you. My name's Gerard Fallon. I live at 23 Crosswood Ave. We'll be directly across the street from where the development is going in. With us today is a bunch of our neighbors that, when we were made known that this was going to happen, shared a lot of concerns. We decided that in this public forum that we should show up and let it known that we're very concerned about it, as is, from what I learned tonight, the Board of Health. And then the concern that I have the most that I learned tonight is if it's going to be a property association, and the property association is going to take care of the drainage, what happens if the property association goes bankrupt? We get into that time, and then this board, we probably know what happens in that circumstance. But that's very concerning as well. In addition to that, Boulder Trail, up a little bit further in this 3 cul-de-sac development, has been under construction for 15 years or so, which has just been a deluge of trucks up and down the street. There's kids in the neighborhood, buses, etc. There's been equipment left on the lots for extended periods of time as they rust. Noise all the time, round the clock. We put 3 more houses in across the way. We have the gun club in the back. There's just a lot of noise. And for us, as homeowners that have lived there for a long time, it just seems like a tragedy for us. The conservation is going to be an issue. We all have danced around conservation on our own properties, looking at, doing things in our own yards. And we got pushback, so we adhered to whatever the rules were. And now we have this space. You should go and walk the space. It's just as he had described it. There's water everywhere. There's a stream that goes right down the middle of it. There's ledge everywhere. Can't imagine how much blasting is going to have to go on there. I mean, it's just a complete disaster for all of us who live in the neighborhood on all of these major issues, at least from a homeowner's standpoint. So I would ask the board, it's the first time I've ever been in front of the board, but I would ask the board as individual homeowners to think more like us, what we're up against if this gets approved. If it were your house or your neighborhood, I understand that progress has to go forward, but this is ridiculous as far as we see it. I mean, the Board of Health's first look at it is no, just no. That's a big hurdle that you have to get over. That's even more concerning to me. You get the private road put in there. Boulder Trail's a private road. There's no lights on that road. It was originally designed to have lights on the road. There are posts there, but there's no lights on that road. Right now there are 2 lights out on as we were coming here, on the public road going up Crosswoods Path. There were 2 light posts out. So now we're going to have another development that's supposed to be a property owner's, and what's that going to look like in a few years? So there's just a lot of concerns that we have to get through. I know it's a preliminary hearing, but we feel so strongly about it. We're hearing numbers. There's at least 7 or 8 houses represented here, and I think there's only 25 houses in all 3 cul-de-sacs. So we're trying to demonstrate our significant concern, and we hope that you acknowledge it.
Okay, a couple questions. Well, first, Kyle, I know you weren't involved in Boulder. I forget him. He's been like Fred Flintstone down there forever. But we didn't waive any streetlights down there. We've never waived streetlights. So if you could just check on that one. And he was in before us. He was supposed to be in before us, wasn't he? Give us an update.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's supposed to give us an update.
Money back.
Yeah, okay. Good. We'll give that to you. Now, you said you lived across the street, right? We're gonna. It's not on
He
this.
lives on Crosswoods Path, on the opposite side of Crosswoods Path.
Don't you? Oh, you don't live right directly across the street.
No. He lives on Crosswoods Path. So
Ah, okay.
Gerard lives this house, I think.
Okay, all right. I thought it was directly across. We've had the issue.
So my house sits up on a hill
Yeah.
and looks out exactly where this development's going to be.
Okay. All right.
Right
so
into the middle of the development.
the reason I asked is we've had issues in the past where Dennis has not given us. You're supposed to give across the street like the street doesn't exist for subdivisions.
No, he did. Yeah.
But he did this time. We had one with one of our favorite clients down in Pinnacle, and they didn't go across the street, and it's a requirement. So when you said that, across the street, you're not, per the Mass General laws, notified by this, but you're here anyway. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's a few other residents that are here as well
Okay.
that were notified. We're a very close community. There are a handful of other people that were going to be here tonight. A few of them have a fever, and obviously in this day and age, showing up with a fever is probably not the best thing. So we urge them to stay home, but they wanted to come. So this is something we're very serious about.
Okay. All right.
There'll be further hearings also, so you can, we'll probably decide one tonight, and you can check the website if you want to follow.
No, they'll know tonight. We got to give them a
Yeah.
time certain for the
You'll
next.
know, we'll know what?
This is going to get continued. And so we have to continue to a time certain. So if you don't leave before the end of the hearing, we're going to say it's going to be on, May 1st at 7 p.m.
Okay.
That'll be the notes. We don't republish it. It's once whoever's here, the continuation. So you can tell the neighbors at the end when we continue it too. Okay? Anyone?
And sorry, Mr. Chairman, just a quick note. You mentioned that it was a preliminary hearing, but this is a definitive subdivision. Previously, this applicant did come before the board with a preliminary hearing, so that has passed. So we're in the definitive stage now, just so you all understand.
I appreciate that clarification. Like I said, this is the first time I've been in front of a board. As you can see, I didn't prepare anything. I just came to see what was what. I didn't come in with any preconceived notions. I just wanted to see what was said and who said what, and to share our concerns. And there's even more reason for concern now after looking at it. And I don't know what the process is. I understand that there's got to be a discussion with the Board of Health, and there's got to be a discussion with Conservation now. That's what I got.
Yeah,
out of it.
they run separate from us.
Okay.
We're like this. We don't cross at all.
Right. So, I guess if either of those committees turn them down, then the process doesn't go forward? Or waivers that get done? I mean, how does that work?
Just for the process, if the Conservation turns it down, but for some reason other than do with we only approve the road. So if it has nothing to do with the road, we still have to march on. Give the approval, but he can't do anything with it because he needs Conservation. We can't say you're turned down because Conservation turned it down.
Okay.
All right, so we march like this, they march like that. So inevitable, he is done at that point.
Yeah,
Anybody
nobody's
is.
going to build a road
You
to
can't
nowhere.
build it because Conservation said no.
Mm-hmm.
If they meet all the bylaws and requirements of the state, we have no other choice than to approve it. But we don't bound another board and they don't bound us. So if Conservation says, no, you can't do this or this, it ends there because they can't get a permit to do anything. We all kind of operate separate.
When this property was originally bought, was it originally zoned, 11 acres bought, originally zoned for 4 homes?
Yeah, the zoning hasn't changed up there. What's changed is, as you know, price of lots. I was here when that came through. No one wanted, lots were going probably 60 grand at that time.
Didn't make sense financially.
Yeah, you couldn't bang rocks for 60 grand. You're seeing it all over. Everybody's starting to tear down ledge everywhere. It's now become more advantageous. And I think you guys your father did the original, didn't he?
We've designed the entire neighborhood. Crosswoods, Pine Brook, Boulder Trail.
That's why it's called Boulder. Everything, you live up there, it's all rock.
And I know there was a lot of blasting up on Boulder Trail for a long time. And, there's 4 homes there. So we're going to go put in another 3 homes in this same environment over how many years? It's just too much.
And just to clarify something so everybody understands, the preliminary plan, we did have a hearing, but according to Mass General laws, you don't have to do a preliminary. If you do, it's encouraged, plus your fee for the final subdivision's reduced a little bit. But a preliminary, there's no notifications to abutters. It's just more like here's my plan, what do you think? And that's what it was.
Okay.
And whatever, we could have said it's wonderful or it's no good, it's non-binding. They'd like to get a feel of which way or maybe change something, so it's encouraged. But for the most part, for all part, it has no bearing on the definitive.
Okay. If you were me standing here, what didn't I say that I probably should have said, and what do you think the members of the board would like to know from me?
I think you did
Your
fine.
wisdom in how all this goes. I don't know anything about procedure. I don't know anything about what's next. Your guidance on what we can do to try and help protect our interests would be much appreciated.
Well, right now we're dealing with the fire and the Board of Health. Those are the only 2. And we have the book we go by,
Right.
Whether I love you or hate you or love it or hate it, if 1 and 1 is 2, they get it. If they say it's 3, they don't get it.
Yep.
And that's kind of about the way it goes. We have had people point out certain features or something that you wouldn't necessarily know. And it's changed stuff. Not a lot, but enough sometimes once in a while.
But the objection of a neighborhood, say it were unanimous, has no bearing. The only bearing is the rules. Is that what I'm understanding to hear?
To be honest, yeah, we have to, because we would put the town in jeopardy because you guys don't like it, but they've done everything. Then they'd sue in the town. It wouldn't even get too far, not even land court. They'd remand it back to us to be approved.
But things like a very long construction phase or things like that, if we understand that there's, high objection to that, that's something that we can specifically specify in our, conditions, and if they don't complete the project in, X amount of time, then they have to come back, and maybe we can keep it on our radar that, that there's
Other
been
things,
issues in the past, but.
like mitigation, meaning that, truck traffic, hours of operation,
Yeah.
what it's going to look like, do they got to fence it in so kids can't go, anything like that. You'd want to make, first off, you want to make sure it's not going to upset, you may not like the noise or whatever, but you want to make sure that you're protected, so if there's certain things like that, you should be looking at. What's a good way in and out of there? You people live there, we don't. Do they need a fence around the whole place? How's that going to be handled? Hours of operation's a big one.
Parking of construction
Noise.
vehicles.
I
Yeah.
think it's good that you keep track of the meetings. At least that way you stay informed. So you were notified of this meeting because it's the first one. But from now on, you don't get notified. So it's good, even if you don't come to the meeting, you can look it up on the internet, or you can call the office, or same thing for conservation meetings, for all those meetings. And not even so much if you don't have anything to say, but just so you're informed and you know what's going on. You can track it. And most of the meetings are available online if you go to Walpole Media. So if you miss a meeting, you can even watch it and just keep up with what's going on, so you know there's no surprise.
And so how do we communicate additional concerns should they come up as a result of these meetings?
What you can do is very simply is send an email and we'll read it into the record if you can't make it, or just show up. Now, the other thing is, like the Board of Health, they don't notify the abutters, which I find a little weird, that the fact that they're the Board of Health is the most powerful board in the whole state. They can shut anybody down at any time, but there's a meeting you guys should find out when Dan's going there to see him, so that, ask them what this all means. That's the one you should call tomorrow and find out when they're scheduled for, or actually have them notice you when he gets the meeting. You got to talk to him anyway, correct?
Yeah, I got to talk to them.
Do they have an open forum as well, or?
Public meeting.
Yeah, public meeting. And also, if you have concerns, fire, you can talk to the Deputy Chief, Paul Barry. He does this stuff. What you think of the road length, the turns around. He can explain all that to you, and you might point something out. Because when you talk to people, you might find out something here and there. You may not find what you're looking for, but you may get almost everything you want. But rather than sit back, like you said, you gotta do your digging, I guess, so to speak.
Right.
And these are all done in the public. So, okay.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the guidance and the feedback, and especially appreciate the time.
Okay. Thanks.
We're glad that the public comes out to these meetings so that they can give their opinions.
Well, we're all here. There's some pretty stern faces over there, so I hope I've spoken on behalf of them, and now I know how we follow up and what we should go and what we should do next, so that gives us a lot of confidence that we have support, which is very helpful, and this open meeting essentially supported that, which is terrific. Thank you so much.
We're absent of yelling and screaming like we've had in the past. We're absent from you for yelling and screaming and beating the podium and.
Yeah, that's not my style.
All right. Anyone else, sir?
My name is Brad Nijak. I am a direct abutter. If I can find it on the map.
What's your address?
32 Old Town Road.
So you're over here. Jack.
Here I am. I guess this is my property. My concern is that where's the proposed house right here?
Behind it.
That the,
Both houses right here.
and this here is the septic system?
Oh, it's a drainage system.
Drainage system. My concern is that this property is going to be located on a very, very steep embankment, really steep, flowing down to my property. My concern is that you're going to get all sorts of storm runoff, perhaps septic leakage, that sort of thing, that's going to drain down into my property into the bubbling brook. which is a year-round stream. There is water, by the way, on both sides of the proposed here and here. There are streams that flow all year on both sides. And I don't believe they have the correct frontage or barrier between the proposed roadway and what's my concern. But my main concern is that we're going to have to deal with this potential contamination of the stream, which would put the wildlife in jeopardy. Also, to put up with any type of problem, leakage, that could affect my property. That area up there is all ledge. The only way they're going to be able to build anything is to blast. And I went through that nonsense when he built his original house. By the way, that original house was supposed to be a stick-built house. It was not. You take a look at the house now, it looks more like a commercial property. And because of that, that construction was delayed and tied up for years and years, because it's not a traditional. So they've been bending the rules up there. They've also been parking their construction vehicles, running constantly up and back and forth, flatbed trucks, tractors, loaders, all sorts of stuff. So I am very concerned about that. We do have one of the members of our group, unfortunately, is in the hospital, but he has a number of questions, and I won't take up the board's time, but I'll ask if I could submit these on behalf. I'm just seeing here if there's something here. I do have some concerns with the owner of the property, Walpole Construction, who's had a history. He's been cited in the past for serious violations, and my concern is he doesn't have a great track record when it comes to public safety. So that's one of the things I would be concerned about. But my main problem would be what is going to happen to the wetlands, what is going to happen to the wildlife. And I'm concerned if in fact he does have the appropriate frontage, and also my concern is that he is encroaching upon the wetland, what's the buffer zone.
Yep.
So I would ask that you take a look at that. Other than that, I think that's about it.
Okay, I'll answer what your concern is just now. We don't deal with the stormwater, we don't deal with the wetlands, that's conservation. They actually do stormwater management in conjunction with conservation. So those issues they will pick up with. The blowout of a septic system, that would be, you raise that to the Board of Health. Because they can get their, after we approve it, they can get their septic design anytime through the Board of Health. And it wouldn't have anything to do with our subdivision. We don't go beyond the 46 feet layout. However they do it. They may never put a septic system in, but that'd be the Board of Health. My recommendation to you and anyone else is, you guys don't know who's on first on these, which board, so if you do have questions or concerns, you would send them to the boards that are in front of us, Conservation, and the Board of Health. And they'll look at the questions. If it's germane to them, they should take it up. If it's not, they should refer, like I said, like to you, this is a conservation issue. But to me, I put it on one letter and then copy each board.
Okay.
So, because it's not up to you guys to figure out how this works. And it's up to us to make sure that, your concerns get answered.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else have any questions, comments? No?
Chairman, a few thoughts. This project's very different than Boulder Trail. From the outset, Boulder Trail was known to require substantial rock removal. There was big ledge outcroppings flanking the road left and right. So that was known. That's not the case here. There's It's been some exaggeration. This property's not all rock. We've dug lots of test holes out here. There's plenty of room for houses without having to get into rock. Septic systems will be designed in accordance with state requirements and town requirements. Drainage systems are in accordance with town requirements and state requirements. And just to give you some perspective, you know, the property's not all wet, obviously. We have the wetland areas delineated. Some areas are. All of our neighbors have wetlands on their property. We've helped most of them, if not all of them, get permits to work in the buffer zone. But this property is kind of unique because it's really quite isolated. It is very hard today to see the existing home from Starlight Drive or from any of the neighboring properties. You know, this, because Mr. Nijak, I think it is, you know, their homes on Old Town Road are up here because this is a big wetland area. It's a big wooded wetland area. So there's a couple hundred feet of woods between this project and the homes and the yards on Old Town Road. The house on Starlight Drive across the way is over here. This is a wetland, an old replication area, and he's got this giant sport court right on the street here. So there's no home directly across the street. And the homes on Crossroads Path, there's a big wooded wetland behind their homes between our proposed work and their yards. So the property really is very isolated, very different than Boulder Trail. Just as you can hardly see what's on the property today, even after construction, you would have a hard time seeing from Starlight Drive, you know, any of the new homes. You might get a little bit of a glimpse when you drive by the driveway, but there's so much woods all across the front of the property, it's very well isolated.
Okay, you all set?
Yes.
Everybody set? All right. We know you're not going April 2nd.
No, the 16th, if that's okay.
So you have everything? Okay. The 16th. All right, and we're good through the end of April, correct, Kate?
April 22nd.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about, and there won't be any snow, so that's not a big deal.
Hope not.
What is this, coronavirus?
Well, we've had one with Broly. We had to meet because we didn't have an extension when it was like a foot of snow.
Yes, and don't remind me.
Yeah. And Maraski had to get picked up.
What time?
So did I.
7:15 is man zone.
Okay, we'll do it at 7:20. Okay, we'll continue this public hearing on April 16th at 7:20 p.m. right here. So that'll be your only notice, so mark that down. And, oh, the other thing, you understand the 14-day rule we have?
Oh, I'm very well aware.
Oh, yeah, I love my rule.
Okay.
Just so you understand, we call it a 14-day rule. It's a very simple thing. Is once upon a time when things were busy back in the 90s, guys would walk out of here and they want to come on the next meeting, and they wouldn't give us the plan until the day before. 2 weeks later, we said, you give it to us 14 days in advance, gave enough time for all the other departments to review it, plus it gives all the public time to see it. So minimum of 14 days before the next meeting, which would be April 2nd, anything he's going to present that night has to be in the folder. If it's not, we don't hear it and it gets continued to the next time. Okay. So we'll continue to April 16th, 7:20. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Let's see. And we do have the street names in there, I know. I don't think they're going to go with those. Too hard to pronounce. Okay.
I'm sorry?
Those are too hard to pronounce.
I don't think, yeah.
Well, those are
Who
good.
has Jack?
You want something simple when you're dispatching, right? Like two syllables.
What does aulad be like? It's my children.
When
that
you-
nice?
Would you
Philistine
want someone
way.
mumbling through it or something? You don't want something like Clark Ave that they
Right,
can go...
yeah. I know, yeah.
Who has final say on the street names? Is that fire?
No, fire department.
Well, if they can do it right now, I'll wait.
We used to have a street naming committee, but that disbanded. And we don't want to do it because you'd have to go through them anyway. It was kind of dumb. We like it, they don't. It was like volleyball, so. Okay. Why don't I bang these out before we get to bid cars? High Oaks, not ready, right?
He's going to wait.
I know, it's going to take 2 seconds. Don't worry about it. I'm going to just knock that off. Makes it look less. High Oaks is going to continue, correct? They got more to do?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So that's the only one. We have bid cars then. I knocked off one. Big whoop. We have the plans there.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've gone past the appeal date.
Yeah, we have a letter from town clerk saying the appeals were taken.
And you also have these plans, Carl?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to endorse.
Second.
Okay, for the bid cars, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
What would I sign with if I was...
Okay, you sure? Okay. That's me, sorry, I don't have it.
Oh, we can't have our own pen now?
No, because you take them home and then I don't have it.
I don't take them home.
Do whatever you want.
Night, yeah.
Yeah, points to them, not mine.
Okay, you'll fill out the other date, right? Oh, you want me to put the endorsed date? Here we go, we get some money. Today's 5th, right? 5th. I kept writing the 4th for some
Got
reason.
1A, no, 1A reconstruction? That is request for comments through Concom.
Keeping you up?
Stumble on that kind of, yeah. Someone told me.
All
Can you sell it?
You should have seen it on Facebook.
Yeah, the check engine light just came on.
Well, saying how bad it was and how they were working.
And what I don't like is the building inspector took action based on Facebook rather than coming down like everybody else.
I'm wondering if,
That would have
I just had
been-
the oil change, and I know they opened
But
it up.
the fact is, if you've got a complaint, you gotta have a file there.
I don't think he,
I looked at that, they opened up the, to look at it, and see if maybe they didn't pass it.
Okay, well, we're signing, we'll do the next one.
it is Boyden
Boyd,
Estates.
what do we have?
Hold on.
Hasn't filled up, so it's probably not that, but anyway, 2005.
Okay. We have a request for bond reduction. Carl responded in response to bond reduction. We are providing a spreadsheet that shows Gene. Carl, I gotta laugh. You must have the Maggie computer.
I didn't
Never spells everything right. Rediced?
It's my...
Throw that one away. She should have taken it home with her. From 2/11/925 to 1/77/892, a return of 34,034. Okay, we have that from Carl. Do I have a motion to reduce it by that amount?
Make a motion.
Okay. Okay, cool. Made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Any discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, so
Is it 500 or did
Yes.
you abstain?
50035. Done. No. No. Pemberton, bond reduction?
Yep. Can I have that back, please? Oh, sorry, I'm holding it up.
All right, we have a bond reduction request.
I think I got the one that's been used all the time.
The remaining of the work is $5,886, however, we require 25%, so $15,000. Okay. We have a requirement that you gotta keep 25% of the bond, you can't reduce it before that until you get the final release. It keeps their attention. So the work left is about $6,000, but 25% is 15,000, so what Kyle says is we can give them back 60 grand, so I'll make a motion, it's a simple way to reduce it to the 15,000.
Second.
Is there a second? Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we vote? For votes?
And that'd be it, right? Carl, I know it's not on the agenda, but American was here. How's that up of Old Post Road?
All Pines?
Yeah.
Haven't gone anywhere with it other than a discussion with the attorney, and we did do a completion list and an estimate.
More than the bar?
Right there.
Well, they'd be better off doing it, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, it's right there using our paving prices, which are good.
It was 50 degrees today.
But it's all under the, what do you call it? Prevailing wage stuff.
It is.
So
But we still get good paving prices.
Yeah,
better
no,
than-
yeah, okay.
No,
So you dealing with the bank's attorney?
He's called, and I've actually, with all the reviewing there, said, you gotta chill for a bit while we get our stuff together. Can you suggest what we need to do with the board for this?
Okay, it's either he's gonna do it, or if they say no, they have to give us a letter we refuse. They're kinda given that already, because Dan's the one that made maybe you can get it now that things have changed a little, so give him one more shot, and if not, you tell the attorney, then send it to us, and he's gonna have to write us a check for that amount.
Yeah, the one thing I've been after is to get Dan to run some calcs through the drainage and see, let's give us an idea and make sure an educated guess is good, but
when
if
you
some
get
numbers behind, it's good.
When you get to that point, town council's gonna have to say the exact way to do it. Yeah. Can't have the cash show up in our hands.
Right. But I've cleared, we can take it, but it's on the list, it's on the forefront. But we've had a vigorous review. We spent a lot of time on that Summer Street 40B.
Should I say how much time was spent on mine? Burns? Nothing? No architectural review? None of that.
No. Thank you.
Have you been in contact with Kathy lately?
No, I haven't talked to her in a bit. What's that fine? Any other folders? All right, we all set?
Yep.
You wanna go home? How come my TV isn't on?
They took everything apart when they did voting.
Oh.
Why would they take, was it in the
So
way?
the Russians don't come in.
Russians are gonna hack into our vote.
Just an idea. Motion to adjourn.
Why do we need TVs? Bernie's gonna
Second.
wipe us out of TVs and electricity. Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Where you going, man?